The end of the year in Yangzhou City was a happy event. The juniors who were practicing outside of their hometown usually came back to see their families. At that moment, Yangzhou City was lively. The end of the year in Yangzhou City was a happy event. The juniors who were practicing outside of their hometown usually came back to see their families. At that moment, Yangzhou City was lively. The guards raised their heads on the top on the gate. They looked domineering and majestic. There was a continuous flow of pedestrians whispering things in the city. Have you heard that the prodigy of the Lin clan Lin Qian came back to Yangzhou City? Now, Lin Qian is terrific. She is a student of the Holy Courtyard of Shuiyu and has a high social status. She is even stronger than some elders of her clan. Besides, some students of the Holy Courtyard followed her. That's really amazing, said some to one of the crowd in a low voice. They looked envious. Lin Qian was amazingly strong and was the pride of the Lin clan. Thanks to her, the rise of the Lin clan was destined. Hee, so what? Don't you know that when Na Lan Feng came back, Na Lan Xiong organized a grand banquet and many noble people attended? Besides, the Lin clan wasn't invited. Na Lan Xiong did it on purpose because his daughter Na Lan Feng has brought back a young man with her. His name is Du Gu Shao. He is related to some of the imperial ministers, one person who controls several thousands upon thousands. I don't dare think about such people, said the person next to them. They were surprised. Everywhere in Shuiyu, an imperial minister was an extremely high status. They were extraordinary people. Na Lan Feng had the good fortune to get acquainted with someone whose relatives were imperial ministers. It would enable the Na Lan clan to rise splendidly. How terrific! The Na Lan clan and the Lin clan both want to rise. The two other clans cannot rival them any longer. All they can do is side with those in power. Absolutely. Last year, during the annual competition of Yangzhou City, Na Lan Feng and Lin Qian were both extremely strong, but after that, Bai Yuanhao had appeared. He was even stronger than them. Oh, I just remembered, there was Lin Feng as well, the one who was expelled from the Lin clan. I don't know what he's been doing recently. Lin Feng? What could he do? He doesn't have an influential background. He must be leading a vagrant life and roaming the streets. Maybe Lin Qian and Na Lan Feng have already gotten rid of him, and even if they haven't, Lin Qian and Na Lan Feng have become so strong that Lin Feng could never catch up with them, said someone while sighing and shaking their head. At the annual competition of Yangzhou City, neither Lin Qian nor Na Lan Feng had been the most brilliant young talent. Instead, it had been an extremely frivolous young man, Lin Feng. These days, they hadn't received any news. Maybe he had died somewhere outside. Of course, nobody was really sure. Everyone was talking about Lin Qian and Na Lan Feng, the two prodigies of Yangzhou City. Every year at the end of the year, people used to gossip about the strong cultivators each year, but that year was particularly exciting. There were these two extremely strong and powerful female cultivators, and they were coming back stronger than ever. Occasionally, on the road, Lin Feng's name could be heard as well. People were usually just mentioning his name without being too interested. Boom! Boom! Noises were emerging from the distance and spread through the atmosphere. It sounded like galloping horses, but it didn't seem plausible. How could horses emit such a concentrated and synchronized sound while galloping? Only a magnificent army with veterans could emit such sounds. The crowd in Yangzhou City was, however, still walking around in the city, leisurely and carefree. They didn't notice anything strange. Boom, 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 the sound was getting louder and louder. Many people were a bit surprised, trying to concentrate and listen to see if there was anything strange. Besides, the sound was getting more and more intense. The ground was even starting to shake. The crowd was stupefied. They looked in the direction of the Yangzhou City gate. In the distance, it seemed like there was a cloud of dust rising into the sky. What's going on? All the people were gradually noticing it. There was a massive cloud of dust. Besides, that sound was really the sound of galloping horses. How loud! It made their hearts tremble. Some red silhouettes gradually appeared in their field of vision. They were all wearing red armor. The horses were red as well. They all emitted a strong qi as they rushed through the air. They were galloping towards Yangzhou City at full speed, and a cloud of dust was rising around them, looking like a hurricane. Boom boom boom. Even though the guards at the top of the city gate had a position which enabled them to see into the distance, what was moving towards them seemed like a boundless dust cloud. Their hearts were pounding like crazy. An army. Surprisingly, it was an army. That was a terrifying and well-trained army of veterans. It was the first time that the city guards saw such a strong qi. Such a huge army in a perfect formation was also something breathtaking. They had the impression that their hearts were beating in their throats. The guards weren't the only ones, the population was also panicking while the army was moving nearer and nearer. Surprisingly, they were armored horses. It was a huge army of armored horses. Most people had never seen such a huge army of armored horses. It seemed like the ground would cave in under their hoofs. The ground was violently shaking, everybody was absolutely dumbstruck. Why would such an army come to Yangzhou City? Quickly, quickly, close the gate, shouted some guards on top of the gate in panic. Shut the hell up, we have to keep it open. If somebody closes the gate, I'll kill him, shouted the leader of the guards. He was furious at those bastards who wanted to die. With such an army of armored horses, if the gate was closed, a single attack would be enough to destroy it. Besides, if they made the army angry, such an army could massacre the entire city. Amongst the guards on the city gate, none of them had the courage to fight. They were scared to death and their faces deathly pale. None of them had ever seen such a huge army in perfect formation. That sort of army was only seen on a battlefield but not in a small town like Yangzhou City. Quickly, go and tell the head of the city, hurry up, shouted one of the guards. Obviously, they didn't know what to do. All they could think about was telling Nalan Xiong. Roger, said a few guards when they heard the order and then immediately left. After all, who wanted to stay there? If the army attacked, they would all die. After that, when the vast army arrived near the Yangzhou City gate, they slowed down. They stopped before the gate of the city and didn't enter it. Even though the army was just calmly waiting there, they were still releasing extremely strong qi. It enveloped the gate of Yangzhou City as well as the crowd on and around it. Everyone within the city felt like they were being suffocated by the intense qi. How monstrous! The red armor, red horses, the image was shocking, almost like a psychological attack. It was too much for the crowd. They had never thought that someday, such an army would appear in Yangzhou City. At that moment, amongst the army, a silhouette emerged and raised their head, looked at the people on top of the gate and said, "Listen, from now on, Yangzhou City is the fief of the Qi Xie Marquis. Everything in Yangzhou City now belongs to the officer of the Qi Xie army. Now, bring the head of the city to come and greet him." The Qi Xie Marquis, the Qi Xie officer, how powerful and majestic. Besides, he was making the head of the city come to greet them. They definitely had an extremely high social status. So that's how it was, the Qi Xie Marquis was the owner of Yangzhou City, but nobody knew who this person was. The crowd felt a bit relieved, since the fief of Yangzhou City belonged to the Qi Xie Marquis, the army wasn't going to attack the city. That huge army hadn't come with malicious intent. "Go! Quickly bring the head of the city here," shouted the leader of the guards, on the top of the gate, to one guard who wasn't moving. That person nodded and abruptly left in the direction of the government. He hadn't clearly heard the words of the Qi Xie soldiers though, he had only heard when he was told to bring the head of the city to greet them. The government was a huge and vast place. There were tables everywhere. The head of the city, Nalan Xiong, had organized an annual banquet to which many wealthy and noble cultivators were participating. He hadn't invited the Lin clan, but the atmosphere was pleasant and lively at that moment. Many people were proposing toasts. It seemed that Nalan Xiong was extremely proud because of his new son-in-law, and he was so excited that he was unceasingly drinking. "Master, master!" At that moment, a worried voice spread in the air, interrupting the crowd. Nalan Xiong frowned and looked at the distance, seeing a guard worriedly and hastily rushing over to him. "A huge army is outside the city and we don't know who they are and what they are doing here," said the guard who was uninterruptedly sweating. The crowd was stupefied. An army had come to the city. At that moment, another silhouette appeared and was running in their direction. "Stop," said Na Lan Xiong. "Are you here because of the army too? What is that army doing right now?" "They want you to go and greet them," said the second guard who had arrived. Na Lan Xiong frowned and looked pensive. "Tell their leader to come here, pay his respects and apologize for his offense." At that moment, a cold and detached voice came from the host seat. It was Du Gushao. He was furious and half-drunk already. Surprisingly, there were people who dared disturb him during the banquet, and besides that, they also wanted Na Lan Xiong to come and greet them. Since Du Gushao was there, they had to give him face. He was there, so no matter who it was, they had to come pay respects and respectfully apologize for offending him. Many people sighed. He was really worthy of his social status. He was extremely strong. They were all panicking and he, instead, ordered the troublemakers to come and apologize for their offense. Du Gushao was wildly arrogant and presumptuous. The guards looked petrified and nervous. "But? There is no but. Tell him to get over here and apologize for his offense. Say that Du Gushao gave the order, otherwise they will regret the consequences." Du Gushao stood up and released some cold qi. His voice was ice-cold as well. The guard was surprised and blankly staring at Du Gushao. When he saw the coldness in his eyes, he immediately nodded and said, "Roger." When they finished talking, the two guards abruptly left. "All right, everybody can continue, let's not let such events ruin our banquet," said Na Lan Xiong while raising his glass and smiling. Everybody raised their glass and laughed heartily. Concerning Du Gushao, he went back to his seat and looked calm. In such a small city, no matter how strong the person was, they had to obey him and apologize for their offense. The Qi Xia troops were calmly waiting outside of the city. The Qi Xia troops were calmly waiting outside of the city. At that moment, one guard came back from the government building. He climbed to the top of the gate and looked at the vast and boundless army. He couldn't help but shake from head to toe. "Tell him to get over here and apologize for his offense." The guard was thinking about these words and they did not sit well in his chest. If he said these words out loud, wouldn't they just kill him? "Open your mouth," said an aggressive voice piercing the guard's ears. The guard was shaking. Immediately after, he closed his eyes and said, "The head of the city said that you should go and apologize for your offense." When he finished talking, the guard felt as if he had been relieved from a huge burden. But when the other guards heard what he said, they were astonished. They were all shaking from head to toe while thinking about the reaction of the army. How did that arrogant bastard dare to tell the Qi Xia troops such an audacious thing? When the Qi Xia troops heard the words, they started to release an incredible amount of qi which created a hurricane which rushed towards the city gate. The entire crowd suddenly felt extremely cold. How cold? That qi was piercingly cold, to the extent that it made everyone feel a shiver run down their spines. Lin Feng, on his dragon-colt horse, moved forwards. Na Lan Xiong, was he really this brave? He was wearing a mask, but under his mask he had an incredibly evil grin. Lin Feng said, in a cold tone, "We have been invited to go to the government building to apologize." "Roger," shouted the troops in unison, which caused panic within the crowd. They brandished their spears and headed towards Yangzhou City. Lin Feng's voice wasn't loud, but when the guards and the crowd heard that the troops were going to the government for an apology, they felt that this was not a good thing for the Na Lan clan. The young man riding the dragon-colt horse was probably their officer. How majestic, he could say a few words and the entire army obeyed him. Boom! Boom! The ground started shaking once again. The Qi Xia troops were galloping in perfect harmony which sent terrifying booms through the atmosphere, sounding like thunder. The hearts of the people in the crowd were pounding. The Qi Xia army transformed into a huge red dragon as it entered Yangzhou City. That huge red dragon seemed like it was flying through the city. At that moment, the people were panicking. None of them dared to block the way of the Qi Xie troops, everybody was moving aside. What a strong and powerful army! Where are they from? Why have they come to Yangzhou City? The people of Yangzhou City were asking themselves many questions. When they saw that huge army with their own eyes, they had the feeling that their heart would explode in their chest. They were way too majestic. The qi they were releasing was so strong that the people in the crowd had the feeling that their legs lost all power. Some of them were completely frozen, not daring to move. In the government building, the atmosphere was still lively and joyful. People were still merry and drinking. At that moment, the ground started shaking as if there was an earthquake. The people present at the banquet were suddenly stupefied and frowned. Immediately after, the noise of the Qi Xie horses galloping became louder and was unceasingly spreading through the atmosphere. What's going on? What the hell is this? Each and every single person who was present at the banquet stood up. Their facial expressions growing rigid, that noise was frightening. What was happening outside? Nalan Xiong frowned and gazed into the distance outside the building. He looked lost in thought and seemed to be contemplating the size of the army. Father, do not worry. Du Gushao is here. The only reason why such a large army is coming here is because they want to apologize for their mistakes, said Na Lanfeng while slightly smiling. Du Gushao, with his social status, was not scared of any army. All right. Na Lanxiong slightly nodded and said, all right, everyone, let's drink more. They are coming here to apologize. The guests listened to him, but they couldn't ease the fear in their hearts. Were these people really coming to apologize? Why did the guests have the feeling that cold killing intent could be felt from the direction of the army? It seemed like it was coming from the Qi Xie army. The rumbling sounds were getting louder and louder. When the guard in front of the building saw the army galloping towards him in the distance, he was astonished. Red armor, red horses. They looked majestic and cruel. His heart started pounding in his chest. Only a short moment later, an incredibly vast and boundless army arrived in front of the government building. Boom! The sound of destruction spread through the atmosphere. A hurricane emerged and crushed the gate in front of the building. Boom! Sounds of things being destroyed filled the atmosphere. Everything in front of the government building had been destroyed. The Qi Xie troops annihilated everything in their path and left no obstacle standing. After having cleared the path to the entrance of the building, the troops entered the government building. Even though their army was incredibly large, they were still in perfect formation. There wasn't the least bit of chaos in their formation. Concerning the guards, they were stunned by the sight of the sea of cavalry. They were standing motionless and let the cavalry pass by. They had the impression that the horses could crush them under their hoofs at any moment, but the army was in perfect formation and simply moved around the guards, not even a hair was touched. They were perfectly accurate with each of their movements. The guards were terrified to be standing in the path of the horses. People in the government building were panicking and running around like headless chickens. They were scared silly. The happy laughter and cheerful voices of the banquet had stopped, not because it was covered by the noise from the army, but because nobody felt like laughing anymore. Everybody was standing up and looking at that vast and majestic sea of Qi Xie horses. They had never been this scared before. Their hearts were violently pounding. A gigantic and powerful Qi Xie army like that could easily annihilate the city. Only a glance at these troops on their Qi Xie horses was enough to scare even a hardened soldier. That army was composed of the most elite troops. Every single soldier was a talented and disciplined cultivator, and there was an army of these powerful cultivators heading in their direction. The troops suddenly adopted a spiral formation, encircling everybody who was present at the banquet. Not even a single drop of water could trickle through, making everybody unable to escape, even if they grew wings and attempted to fly out. At that moment, there wasn't a single person who could escape. This incredible army of elite troops could destroy anyone's courage. Na Laxiong's heart was pounding. Such a huge and powerful army had come to apologize. Du Gushao was frowning. He put down his glass and slowly walked towards the person who was the closest to him. He looked at the person in front of him, The person was wearing a red armor and a majestic helm. That person's facial expression was ice cold. He then said, "What guts? You are the Qixia army, why have you come to Yangzhou City?" The Qixia troops were elite troops in Shuiyu. The guests were stupefied. This army was the elite Qixia army? That's why they were wearing red armor and had Qixia armored horses. Nobody paid attention to him. They looked at Du Guzhao's performance as if he was a fool. Du Guzhao was furious. Mere soldiers dared to make him lose face. Especially now that he had bragged about how respected and influential he was. "Who's your officer? Show yourself and apologize," Du Guzhao shouted. Even though he felt scared standing before such a powerful army, he belonged to the Du Gu clan, he had the right to be arrogant. His family was incredibly powerful and it was hard to scare him when he had such a high status. Everybody in the Nalan clan treated him like a deity. He was drunk and started to believe that he actually was a deity when inside such a small city. He was extremely arrogant. Besides, he was the one who dared to force the army here, how could he flinch at this moment? Na Lanfeng stood next to Du Guzhao. She was looking coldly at the army. She felt proud of the man she loved. Nobody dared offend the members of the Du Gu clan. Even the Qixia officers wouldn't dare, after all, she didn't just pick anyone to be with her. "You are all extremely audacious, how dare you storm into the government like this?" Na Lanfeng said. She had the impression that her boyfriend was a mighty hero. She wasn't scared at all because a member of the Du Gu clan was beside her. "Show myself? Apologize? Audacious?" Lin Feng mockingly said. He made his horse slowly trot to the front of the army. He was wearing a bronze mask. His expression was ice-cold and evil. He didn't look at Du Guzhao and Na Lanfeng, he was looking directly at Na Lanxiong. "Na Lanxiong, head of Yangzhou City, you wanted me to come here and apologize?" Na Lanxiong was astonished. How did Lin Feng know who he was within the crowd? Lin Feng frowned when he heard Du Guzhao interrupt with a shout, "I'm talking to you, didn't you hear me?" Lin Feng looked at Du Guzhao, another arrogant cultivator acting foolishly. "What do you want?" said Lin Feng in a cold tone. The crowd was shocked. Du Guzhao was astonished. His face lost all color. The expression in his eyes turned ice-cold. "My family name is Du Gu," said Du Guzhao in an arrogant tone. Lin Feng was surprised. Du Gu? That name sounded familiar. He had indeed met Du Guzhang. Lin Feng looked at Du Guzhao again and a smile appeared under his bronze mask. "So what?" "The Du Gu clan of the Imperial City," said Du Guzhao aggressively. "His relatives are part of the Imperial Ministers," said Na Lanfeng arrogantly. "Now, get down off your horse and apologize. Then I will pretend that this never happened." Du Guzhao said when he heard Na Lanfeng say the word Imperial Ministers. His facial expression also revealing a proud expression. "Imperial Ministers?" whispered Lin Feng while lowering his head and looking at Du Guzhao with a cold stare. He only noticed that, every second, Du Guzhao was growing even more arrogant. Indeed, Du Guzhang and him were both cut from the same cloth. "Cut one of his arms off," Lin Feng said in a cold tone, while waving his hand. Everybody was dumbstruck. "Cut one of his arms off. Cut one of his arms off." Lin Feng's voice was calm, everybody was absolutely petrified. Lin Feng wanted to cut one of Du Guzhao's arms off. Du Guzhao was related to an imperial minister and he would dare to cut his arm off? Du Guzhao's arrogant expression vanished. His heart was pounding. What did he just hear? After having declared his social status and demanding for Lin Feng to apologize, Lin Feng hadn't even paid attention to him and calmly ordered his soldiers to cut one of his arms off. People in the crowd felt like their hearts skipped a beat. "What did you just say?" asked Na Lanfeng, whose heart was pounding. Immediately after, she looked at Lin Feng with an ice-cold glare. Du Gushao was her boyfriend and she was extremely happy to be with him. When the people of the banquet had learnt that a huge army had come to Yangzhou City, they had all panicked. Only Na Lanfeng and Du Gushao had remained calm and were extremely arrogant. They were the ones who demanded the army come to apologize. "Listen to me, you want to cut one of my arms off?" said Du Gushao in an ice-cold tone, while releasing some cold qi. At the same time, a soldier wearing a bronze mask rushed out from the army while releasing some extremely thick and brutal qi. Slash! Lin Feng didn't feel like hearing any more words. Ba Dao jumped through the air. A magnificent and bright light filled the atmosphere. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared. The only thing left in the atmosphere was gushing blood. The entire atmosphere turned completely silent. Everybody was staring at the blood. Their hearts were shaken. They had really cut off his arm. That soldier didn't hesitate at all. The Qi Xia officer gave an order and his arm had immediately been completely cut off. Besides, that bright and dazzling light which flashed through the air remained in their minds. They couldn't think about anything else. Ah! The entire atmosphere was invaded by a heavy silence. Du Gushao broke that silence when he uttered a long cry of agony. He was covering his bleeding stump with his other hand, his face was deathly pale, there wasn't the slightest trace of color in his face. Besides, on his side, Na Lanfeng was blankly staring at the scene. Her beautiful cheeks turned white. Had Du Gushao really lost his arm? It's over. Na Lanfeng's heart was violently pounding. The Dugu clan would never accept the fact that Du Guxiao's arm had been cut off and they would hold the Na Lan clan responsible. How could this happen, thought Na Lanfeng while feeling enraged. He raised his head and looked at Lin Feng, the officer of the Qi Xia troops, who was wearing a bronze mask. At that moment, Lin Feng looked at him as well. Behind his mask, his face was as calm and serene as before. He did not care about the events that had just transpired. "You wanted me to come and apologize," said Lin Feng sounding cold and detached. Na Lanfeng's facial expression became rigid. He was realizing that Lin Feng might also cut off his arms. This officer was insane. Would it be that simple though? But at that moment, Na Lanfeng was surrounded by an army and couldn't escape at all. Lin Feng just had to give the order and the Na Lan clan would be annihilated. Na Lanfeng had listened to Du Gushao and told them to come apologize. He had asked the officer of the Qi Xia army to come and apologize. Of course, all of this was happening because Na Lanfeng had trusted Du Gushao too much. After all, his family was tied to imperial ministers. However, he wouldn't have thought that an officer would actually dare to cut off one of Du Guxiao's arms, especially when considering his social background. "Who are you?" said Du Gushao sounding evil while staring at Lin Feng. He wanted to slaughter Lin Feng. "I am Du Gushao of the Dugu clan, our clan has imperial ministers, and you dared to cut off my arm. You are dead," shouted Na Lanfeng while staring at Lin Feng. Her facial expression was hideous. "Dugu clan, imperial ministers, I know all of that," said Lin Feng indifferently. He then looked at Du Gushao and said, "What is your relation to Du Gushang?" "Ha!" Du Gushao was surprised, he was staring at Lin Feng, "My older brother. Since you know, how dare you cut off my arm?" At that moment, his wound was extremely painful. "Your older brother? You are all the same. You whole clan must be incredibly stupid," said Lin Feng sounding cold and detached. He then added, "Could it be that your brother hasn't told you? A few days ago, at the Celestial Academy, I slapped him into a stupor and then made him kneel down and kowtow to me." Du Gushao was violently shaking and staring at Lin Feng. He was dumbstruck. Surprisingly, it was him. He should have thought about this earlier. Qi Xia officer, Yangzhou City must be his fief, why didn't he think about it sooner? That was because in his head, the Qi Xia army should belong to Duanren City, but surprisingly they had come to Yangzhou City. He was now realizing that the Qi Xia army hadn't gone back to Duanren City, instead, they had come to the new fief of their officer, a small city that was not worth mentioning. Lin Feng had set a whole city on fire, had crossed a huge distance to save the princess. He rushed over to the imperial city to save Lu Zhanglan from being executed, then he killed Duan Tianlang's son in front of him. He was the Marquis of Yangzhou City. Lin Feng had become a legend in the imperial city. Lin Feng was absolutely fearless. He didn't even fear Duan Tianlang and killed his son in front of him. Was there anything that Lin Feng didn't dare to do? Du Guzhao's face was deathly pale. Why did this happen to him? There were imperial ministers in his family. The crowd also noticed that Lin Feng was silent. They were stupefied. He had slapped Du Guzhao's brother. He even made him kowtow. Who was this person? He was truly insane. He wasn't even scared of facing the Du Gu clan. Na Lan Feng and Na Lan Xiong saw that Du Guzhao had also become silent. They were shaking in fear. Du Guzhao, surprisingly, was keeping his mouth closed from fear. If he remained silent, it meant that Lin Feng was speaking the truth. His brother had really been slapped by Lin Feng and had kowtowed as an apology. Who is he? Whispered Na Lan Feng, but Du Guzhao ignored her. He had a strange smile on his face. Good, good. Du Guzhao was almost driven insane. He couldn't do anything against Lin Feng. He wasn't strong enough to rival him and his clan would not risk getting involved. His brother had even been humiliated by him. All he could do was remain silent. His brother had been humiliated, he, himself, had just lost an arm. How could he not be driven into madness? That Qi Xia officer was really a terrifying existence. Du Guzhao demanded the army come and apologize. It seems like he knows the officer but can't afford to offend him, thought the people in the crowd. The Na Lan clan was in trouble. A moment before, Du Guzhao was insufferably arrogant and aggressive, but then his arm was cut off. He didn't even dare to make another sound. The Na Lan clan had no escape. Apologize? Lin Feng was standing before them. Who could stop him? Everybody wanted to say that it had nothing to do with the Na Lan clan so that they would be able to avoid a catastrophe. Na Lan Xiong, I am the Qi Xia Marquis in Yangzhou City is my fief. I arrived in Yangzhou City and instead of a greeting, you demand an apology. How audacious, said Lin Feng in an extremely cold tone, making everybody shiver. What should be your punishment, said Lin Feng. Na Lan Xiong's heart was beating extremely violently. He was the Marquis of Yangzhou City. He had surprisingly come to receive his fief and Na Lan Xiong refused to greet him and demanded an apology. That was an offense. Na Lan Xiong remained silent. He only saw Lin Feng turn to the other members of his clan. What do you think? How should he be punished? The crowd was shaking. Lin Feng was terrifying. The last person to speak will die, said Lin Feng. Then suddenly everyone burst into uproar. Na Lan Xiong is a criminal. He should die. When Na Lan Xiong heard that, he evilly stared at the person. The person was flattering him a short moment before and at that moment he was saying that he should die. What a venomous snake. Indeed, Na Lan Xiong should die. He definitely has to die. Yes, you're right, kill him. Everybody who was present was replying as quickly as possible, scared to be the last person. Lin Feng was smiling under his mask. Finally, he looked at Na Lan Xiong and said, Did you hear that? Everybody is saying that you should die. When Na Lan Xiong saw that Lin Feng might kill him, and when he saw Lin Feng's calm eyes, he had the feeling that he knew him from somewhere. I know you. Who are you? Said Na Lan Xiong to Lin Feng. He realized that Lin Feng may have come specifically for him. Do you want to know who I am? Said Lin Feng calmly. I do, said Na Lan Xiong while nodding. He, of course, wanted to know. All right, I see. Lin Feng smiled. He put his hands on his bronze mask and slowly took it off. His face appeared. Everybody, including Na Lan Xiong, could see him. At that moment, the atmosphere became entirely silent. Commit suicide. Lin Feng. It's Lin Feng, I can't believe it. Their hearts were racing. The officer of the Qi Xia army was surprisingly Lin Feng. Back in the past, Lin Feng had begun to show his brilliant talent, but then the Lin clan and the Nalan clan made him their enemy and forced him to leave. The previous year, during the annual competition, many of the prestigious figures of Yangzhou City had personally seen Lin Feng. All the people present at Nalan Xiong's banquet were rich, noble and prestigious figures. Therefore, they could all recognize Lin Feng, that talented young man. The young man, who was now the officer of a powerful army which made the entire city vibrate, surprisingly was the same delicate and handsome young man they saw during the previous competition. Nobody would have ever thought of such a thing, even in their dreams. Besides, how old was Lin Feng? He was not even 18 years old, and he was already the officer of the Qi Xia army, the Qi Xia Marquis. He already had an army of tens of thousands under his control. That was amazing. Everybody was looking at Lin Feng and wanted to speak, but they all knew to remain silent. Nalan Xiong was also shaking. Lin Feng was surprisingly the officer of the Qi Xia army. Incredibly, it was the same Lin Feng. His heart was pounding. Back in the past, Lin Feng was considered trash and had been expelled from the Lin clan. Now, he had become a marquis. Nalan Xiong had the impression that the situation was contradictory with everything that he knew about Lin Feng. Of course, the person who was most surprised was Nalan Feng. When she saw Lin Feng take off his mask, she was dumbstruck. Her heart started pounding. Immediately after, she bit her lips and blankly stared at the frivolous and handsome young man. During the annual competition of the previous year, she had thought that she would be the best cultivator in the competition. She had thought that only Lin Qian would be her rival. However, nothing happened the way she had thought. Bai Yuanhou and Lin Feng appeared from nowhere. They had stolen her prestige. However, during the competition, she had thought that she was at the same cultivation layer as Lin Feng and she would easily surpass him in the future. However, Lin Feng was appearing in front of her again. He had an incredible social status. He had an army of Qi Xia cavalry and owned the entire Yangzhou city. He had cut off the arm of her influential and arrogant boyfriend. Lin Feng was not even agitated. Lin Feng had easily ordered for his arm to be cut off. Maybe this was very normal for him. Du Guzhao's social status was high, his relatives were imperial ministers. The fact that he had come with her had made Nalan Feng extremely proud. The entire city of Yangzhou respected and admired her because of her boyfriend's status. That was why they were unceasingly flattering her. Even her clan had organized the banquet and invited the richest and most noble people to greet him. Nalan Feng wasn't prepared for such a situation. She hadn't thought that a fight would break out at all. All of this was happening because of the Qi Xia army. Lin Feng had easily shattered her arrogance. Actually, he had crushed her entire reality and turned her world upside down. She was much weaker than Lin Feng. She could not even touch his shadow. Surprisingly, at that moment, the calmest person of the group was the person who had just lost an arm, Du Gushao. That was because Lin Feng had mentioned that he slapped Du Gushang. At that moment, Du Gushao understood what kind of person he was dealing with and the social status that Lin Feng had. He had never seen Lin Feng's face before. When looking at that young and handsome man, Du Gushao wanted to rip him to shreds. Lin Feng had not only crushed his arrogance but he also cut off his arm. Besides, his natural talent was far beyond Du Gushao. The crowd was astonished. When Lin Feng noticed the reactions, he was smiling coldly. Power was determined by strength and status. In the past, he was an unknown and quiet young man. Even though he had participated in the annual competition, his strength was still not enough. He also had no social status at all. He had been so talented that Nalan Xiong wasn't able to bear it and forced the Gu clan and the Wen clan to get involved. Everybody had joined forces in an attempt to kill him. He had been reluctant to leave Yangzhou City, but now he was back. However, the new Lin Feng had become much stronger. He could control an entire army, therefore, he could look down on everyone. He had the power of life and death. He used to be humiliated every single day that he spent living in Yangzhou City, but he still returned to the place he called home. "Do you understand things more clearly now?" said Lin Feng in a calm voice, while looking at Na Lanxiong. That calm voice made everyone tremble. Everybody was looking at Lin Feng. They were all confused. They were unable to calm their racing hearts. Nobody would have thought that the young man, who was forced from Yangzhou City in humiliation, would come back and shock them all. Na Lanxiong was having trouble breathing as the shock had been too great. He didn't know what to say, but he knew, more than everyone else, what was going to happen. Lin Feng was as handsome, frivolous, and determined as before. In the past, Lin Feng's strength wasn't enough to make a difference, but now he was able to control an entire army, and became the Marquis of Yangzhou City. Could Lin Feng still be the same weak young man? That was, of course, impossible. "What do you want?" Na Lanxiong was staring at Lin Feng. He felt extremely disheartened. Today was supposed to be a happy day, but because of Lin Feng, it had become a tragic event. "What about you?" said Lin Feng while smiling coldly, and then continued. "Last year, you, Na Lanxiong, as the head of the Na Lan clan, organized the annual competition. I had joined, but when I won, the Lin clan wanted my life. You, as the one organizing the event, didn't try to stop them at all. You gave your tacit agreement. You wanted me to die. I beat everybody, including your daughter. I even took her as a hostage, so of course, you wanted to see me dead. The Yangzhou City competition was a joke." Lin Feng was speaking slowly. "Besides, you organized everything to make your daughter seem stronger than she was. But now, I am stronger than your daughter. Back then, your daughter sent people to kill me because I refused to give her my table. She thought that she could put herself high above me. I could have died at any point." Lin Feng's words were insufferably powerful and cold. "Therefore, for everything that you made me suffer, I will return it back. I want you to take your own life. You must take your own life." Lin Feng's tone was calm and peaceful. The crowd was astonished and their hearts were pounding once again. Lin Feng was surprisingly asking Na Lanxiong, the head of Yangzhou City, to commit suicide. In the past, who would have thought that the delicate and handsome young man would, one day, look at Na Lanxiong and tell him to kill himself? In the past, Na Lanxiong was sitting at the top and it was as if Lin Feng was an ant beneath his foot. "If I decide against that," said Na Lanxiong while staring at Lin Feng aggressively. "You can choose to refuse. I don't have much time to play with you, so I will give you 10 seconds to think it over. If you don't reply, I will take that as your refusal. The countdown starts now." He had 10 seconds to decide. How domineering, how powerful. 1. 2. Lin Feng didn't care about what other people thought. He was looking at Na Lanxiong and counting. Na Lanxiong's face turned deathly pale. He had never thought that suddenly, someone would tell him to end his own life. Besides, he also had the choice to refuse. The only problem was, who would dare to refuse? 6. 7. Time passed, the 10 seconds had almost elapsed. Everybody was staring at Na Lanxiong. "No, don't," said Na Lanfeng while looking at her father and shaking her head frenetically. She regretted everything at that moment. Everything that was happening was because of her. She had used her status to send people to kill him over nothing. If she hadn't acted that way in the past, maybe they wouldn't be in such a desperate situation at that moment. Her pride and arrogance had a price, and what a tragic one. 9. Ha ha ha. At that moment, a loud laugh spread through the atmosphere. Na Lanxiong was laughing as if he was carefree. Psh. A sound echoed through the banquet hall along with the echoing laughter. Suddenly, blood started spilling from Na Lanxiong's mouth. "Father." Na Lanfeng's face turned deathly pale. Her father had chosen to kill himself. He hadn't dared to gamble. Lin Feng was excessively cruel. Na Lanfeng felt hatred rise up from the bottom of her heart. Everybody was looking at Na Lan Shong. He had run himself through and pierced his vitals. Everybody was looking at Na Lan Shong. He had run himself through and pierced his vitals. Suicide. The head of Yangzhou City had, in front of Lin Feng, committed suicide as a punishment for his crime. A short time before, it was his future son-in-law who had made Lin Feng come to apologize. "Father," shouted Na Lan Feng while looking at her father piercing his vital organs. A cracking sound spread in the air. Her face turned deathly pale, the expression in her eyes revealed pure hopelessness. "Lin Feng, I chose to obey you and commit suicide, but my family, including my daughter, are innocent. I hope that you can let them off," said Na Lan Shong, and then he injected qi into his vitals and there was a small explosion of all his organs. Immediately after, his face lost its color and he fell heavily onto the floor. One of the great figures of Yangzhou City had killed himself because of Lin Feng's words. His power and influence were incredible. Lin Feng wanted him to die, so he didn't dare to live. He was scared that Lin Feng would annihilate his entire bloodline. These days, the officer of the Qi Xia army seemed extremely cruel. His words were as sharp as a sword. Nobody could stop him, and if somebody tried to block him, he would kill them. Na Lan Shong had had only one choice, to die. If he didn't agree, he would die, if he refused, he would die. Therefore, he had decided to accept. He had to kill himself in order to protect his clan. "I have nothing against your family, except for Na Lan Feng. How could I have mercy on her," said Lin Feng, sounding cold and detached, while looking at Na Lan Shong's corpse. It wasn't only because Na Lan Feng had sent people to kill him and he almost died from that encounter. Even though he had taken her as a hostage, that wasn't enough. Lin Feng hadn't forgiven her. Besides, she wasn't showing any signs that she regretted what she had done. She was still insufferably arrogant and thought that, by relying on Du Guzhao's social status, she could act as she wished. Lin Feng couldn't tolerate her continuously looking down on people. Lin Feng had been in that world for over a year. He had changed and was no longer weak and indecisive. These days, if he had a feeling in his heart, he'd trust it, even if it meant killing people without mercy. The most important thing was to stick to one's convictions. The crowd was stupefied. Lin Feng surprisingly wasn't going to let Na Lan Feng off. Na Lan Feng was hugging her father's dead body. Her face looked lifeless and she was still staring at Lin Feng because Lin Feng had cut off one of Du Guzhao's arms and had forced her father to kill himself. What did he intend to do with her? "No need to look at me like that. Back in the past, it was just the beginning. When you tried to kill me, I would have never thought that I would have the opportunity to get my revenge so soon. You can cripple your own cultivation. I will not kill you." Lin Feng still looked expressionless. Na Lan Feng's eyes were filled with hatred. Lin Feng had a clear conscience when it came to what he was doing because he knew that Na Lan Shong and Na Lan Feng would have done even worse things to him. Since that girl was so arrogant and presumptuous, Lin Feng thought that it would be good to make her cripple her own cultivation so that she would be forced to live like the ordinary people she disdained. "Hurry up, I don't want to have to see your face any longer than required," said Lin Feng coldly while staring at Na Lan Feng. In the past, when she tried to kill Lin Feng, she would have never thought that such a day would come. Mountains can be reduced to rubble over time, if there is a man with enough conviction to do so. All right, said Na Lan Feng, whose face was deathly pale. She suddenly released qi and attacked herself. Immediately after, she groaned. All of her accumulated qi filled the air. Na Lan Feng's face became even paler, she was extremely weak. The incredibly arrogant girl of Yangzhou City had become a piece of trash. The only reason was because she hated Lin Feng in the past and tried to kill him. When Lin Feng saw that Na Lan Feng was done with crippling her own cultivation, he put his mask back on and made his dragon colt horse slowly turn around. He then started speaking in a calm and peaceful voice. "Pajun, you will stay here and reorganize everything in the government building. Then, we will use this place to station the troops. Everybody else, Follow me. When Lin Feng finished talking, he left on his horse, looking natural and unrestrained. Rumbling filled the area again as the army started to leave the area. The Qi Xia troops were also moving towards the exit. A short time after, they had all disappeared from the field of vision of the crowd. But the crowd was still staring at the empty space in front of them. The images of the army were still engraved into their minds. Lin Feng had left. Where had he gone? Lin clan, it has to be the Lin clan. Many people had the same thought at the same time. In the past, Lin Feng belonged to the Lin clan. Lin Feng had been expelled and disgraced, but now he had become extremely powerful. He had become of the officer of the Qi Xia and even owned Yangzhou city. He had cut off one of Du Gu Zhao's arms, had killed the head of the city and made Na Lan Feng cripple her own cultivation. Even though he hadn't moved a single finger to do all this, everything was under his control. These days, Lin Feng could deeply affect Yangzhou city. He held the power of life and death. How could he not go to the Lin clan, who had expelled and disgraced both Lin Feng and Lin Hai? Lin Feng didn't know that the Na Lan clan was planning a festive occasion. He also didn't know that the Lin clan was extremely lively at this moment. At the end of the year, the Lin clan held an annual meeting and the competition between the juniors was still occurring. Around the fighting stage of the Lin clan were the older people of the Lin clan. They were looking at the juniors battling. They all had big smiles on their faces. The juniors of the Lin clan were good and they all had relatively impressive talents. It seemed like this generation had some good qualities. It seemed like the clan would be able to rise in the future. Lin Badao, Qian Qian is the strongest and most outstanding young cultivator we have. Not only does she have an ice and fire spirit but she is also very young. Having broken through to the 4th Ling Qi layer, she will soon catch up with me, and at that point, she will even be stronger than me, even with all my years of experience. Congratulations. An elder of the clan was looking at the fighting stage and talking to Lin Badao. The elder was flattering Lin Badao, which made a huge smile appear on his face. Lin Badao felt extremely proud when people flattered his daughter. He of course enjoyed it very much. He also felt flattered for raising such a genius. Indeed, nobody can rival with Lin Qian. She's a real genius. Lin Feng, that piece of trash, was a nobody. He was extreme weak. I don't even care if he's dead now. Many people were flattering Lin Qian and Lin Badao, even if it meant they had to lie. Indeed, during the last annual meeting of the Lin clan, everybody had seen that Lin Feng was powerful. They all knew that Lin Qian couldn't rival with Lin Feng, which is why Lin Badao and the respectable elder had to expel him. He was much more talented than Lin Qian. Nobody was trying to compare them though. Lin Qian had an ice and fire spirit and she was a student of the holy courtyard of Shuiyu. Lin Feng was far from being at her level. Even though he had won against her in the past, people still thought at the time he was lucky and he had probably died long ago. Lin Badao's smile was huge and he said, "All our juniors are incredible and all practice cultivation very hard. They are all very good. That is how a good clan head should act." Lin Hai, in the past, just prevented the clan from progressing. Besides, his son was a disobedient brat who was not loyal to the clan. He laughed Lin Badao. Lin Feng and Lin Hai could never rival Qian Qian and me. Exactly, never, said the people immediately in reply. At that moment, they didn't know it, but outside of the Lin clan, someone was standing at the entrance to the gate. He looked calm and serene. The Lin clan. Lin Feng raised his head and saw the sign at the top of the gate. It felt very familiar. Lin Feng's heart was beating a bit faster. It used to be his clan. Today is the annual meeting of the Lin clan, thought Lin Feng. He took a deep breath and immediately moved forwards. He hadn't seen the Lin clan for such a long time. Stop! The guards of the Lin clan blocked the way when they saw him. They coldly asked, "Who are you?" Lin Feng looked at these two guards, smiled indifferently and said, "My name is Lin Feng." Lin Feng, said the two guards, a bit surprised. They had been serving the Lin clan for half a year, but they had never heard a member with that name before. Did the Lin clan have such a person? I don't know him, said the guards while looking at each other. They were still blocking the way, not letting Lin Feng enter. You will know me very soon, said Lin Feng while smiling. Immediately after, a strong wind blew past their bodies. Even though their eyes were wide open, they couldn't see Lin Feng's movements. He had disappeared in a flash. He had vanished before their eyes. He moved past the guards like the wind and headed into the Lin clan territory. The annual meeting of the Lin clan was happening like every year at the end of the year. At that moment, Lin Badao's son, Lin Hong, was punching another junior of the Lin clan. His fist was surrounded by a powerful ice. Immediately after, the entire crowd heard a loud shout from Lin Hong's opponent. The annual meeting of the Lin clan was happening like every year at the end of the year. At that moment, Lin Badao's son, Lin Hong, was punching another junior of the Lin clan. His fist was surrounded by a powerful ice. Immediately after, the entire crowd heard a loud shout from Lin Hong's opponent. Wow, how strong! Like father, like son. Lin Hong is extremely powerful. Indeed, it has been a series of successes since Lin Hai and his piece of trash son left the clan. Nowadays, the head of our clan has 2 children and they are both geniuses. Lin Qian is famous for being a genius, but Lin Hong is also a talented genius. He is amazing. Except for Lin Qian, nobody else in the Lin clan can rival him. They are both almost as powerful as the elders of the clan, said an elder while smiling. His clear and loud voice spread through the entire arena. Everybody could hear him very clearly. Amongst those who heard him was Lin Feng, who was calmly walking through the Lin clan territory. Lin Feng hadn't thought that people would still be criticizing him and his father to satisfy Lin Badao. He couldn't help but smile. He raised his head, looked at the person in the distance and said in a mocking tone, "Oh, is that so?" His voice wasn't loud at all, but everybody heard him. People were stupefied. They turned around and immediately, they saw a silhouette, a young man. He looked surprisingly familiar. That familiar person was called a piece of trash by everyone, but during the annual meeting of the previous year, he had displayed an incredible power. After that, he had also shown an amazing display at the competition of Yangzhou City. Everybody had seen how strong he was, but he had been expelled of the Lin clan. At the time, the clan had decided to choose Lin Qian instead of Lin Feng. Everybody thus thought that Lin Qian was much stronger than Lin Feng and had a better talent to develop in the future. They thought that the clan would be able to rise alongside her and, someday, she would become the clan head. It's him. It's Lin Feng. Lin Feng came back. He came back to the Lin clan. Many people were astonished when they saw Lin Feng. He looked different, he seemed more handsome and delicate. That handsome young man also looked more mature than before. He looked very calm, yet his facial expression was extremely sharp and cold. Lin Feng. Lin Badao narrowed his eyes. That young man, whom he had expelled from the clan, surprisingly dared to return. A mocking smile appeared on Lin Badao's face. Of all the places where he could go, he returned to the Lin clan. He was courting death. On the stage, Lin Qian wasn't reacting the same way as her father. She started shaking violently. It was Lin Feng, unbelievable. She had asked herself if the young man, who was terrifying the people in the imperial city, was going to come back to the Lin clan. She was not feeling safe and had hoped he would not return. Lin Feng had come back, and it was possible that he had come back to reclaim his and his father's lost honor. "You dared to come back," said the 9th elder when he saw Lin Feng. He had an ice-cold and evil smile on the corner of his mouth. He then said, "Lin Feng, your father rebelled against the respectable elder and killed members of the clan. He has committed many crimes. Besides, you are the same and don't respect the elders. You are arrogant and rude. You have also been expelled from the Lin clan. Besides, last year, you attempted to assassinate Na Lan Feng, but luckily she managed to escape alive. Today, you dared to return to Yangzhou City and even come back to the Lin clan? Are you done talking crap? Said Lin Feng to the ninth elder. He found him to be ridiculous. He had come back and they were still creating more crimes to accuse him. He didn't feel like listening to them anymore. Talking crap, the ninth elder narrowed his eyes. He was staring at Lin Feng with an ice-cold glare. You called me a piece of trash a moment ago. Today is the annual meeting of the Lin clan. Would you dare to let your son come here and fight me? Said Lin Feng. The ninth elder's son was about the same age as Lin Feng. When he heard Lin Feng, he remained silent. His eyes looked even colder. How come you're no longer talking? Your son is a piece of trash and doesn't dare fight, right? He is even worse than a piece of trash, said Lin Feng mockingly. He then started walking slowly towards the fighting stage. After a short moment, he appeared in front of the entire crowd and slowly walked towards the fighting stage. Many juniors of the Lin clan, when they saw Lin Feng pass by, opened the way for him, letting him pass towards the fighting stage. After that, Lin Feng moved onto the fighting stage and looked around at the crowd surrounding the stage. How come you aren't saying anything? Said Lin Feng to the ninth elder again. Lin Badao smiled coldly and said, Lin Feng, we had forgotten that you were also a junior of the Lin clan. Last time, we didn't kill you, we let you off, and surprisingly, instead of being thankful for showing you mercy, you dared come back to the Lin clan. Didn't kill me? Mercy? Lin Feng was a bit surprised. When had Lin Badao showed him this mercy? When had he let him off? When I arrived, I heard people licking Lin Badao's boots. He is really shameless. He even surrounds himself with the same type of shameless people. How audacious, shouted the ninth elder extremely loudly. He also released a cold chi. Maybe I am audacious. A moment ago, you were talking about how great and majestic Lin Qian and Lin Hong were. They are true geniuses, right? Of course, they are the geniuses of our clan, replied the ninth elder. Well, and me, I am a piece of trash, right? So you already know your place, said the ninth elder mockingly. Since that is clearly the case, the piece of trash, I am willing to exchange pointers with the geniuses of the Lin clan, Lin Hong, Lin Qian, and any others who wish to come onto the stage. If I lose, then kill me, said Lin Feng in a loud voice. If he lost, he would die. How arrogant, how presumptuous, how majestic. The people of the Lin clan remained silent. Apart from Lin Qian and Lin Hong, who would be willing to battle against Lin Feng? 1 year before, Lin Feng was already extremely powerful. How strong would he be after a year? How come nobody is speaking? Lin Feng, want to die, said Lin Feng while laughing and staring at the crowd. He wanted to die. How insane did that sound? Everybody was stupefied, but as before, nobody dared reply. All the juniors of the clan were astonished and they were all looking at Lin Qian and Lin Hong. Only they could win against Lin Feng. But they knew about Lin Feng's exploits in the imperial city. Fighting against Lin Feng would be courting death. I, Lin Feng, beg of you to come and kill me, but nobody is coming. What a load of crap. You all dare to speak such insane words and pretend that you are better than me. You talk about geniuses. I admire your shamelessness. I didn't know that your shamelessness had reached unfathomable heights. Lin Feng really was making fun of the Lin clan, and it was becoming more and more obvious. The people of the clan felt their cheeks burning. Lin Feng had been expelled from the clan, but at that moment, he was on the fighting stage of the Lin clan and asking people to go kill him, and surprisingly, nobody dared to fight against him, including the young genius who was the hope of the clan, Lin Qian. You impudent brat, furiously shouted the ninth elder. He had just finished talking and Lin Feng was already shouting and mocking the ninth elder. Didn't you, a moment ago, say that I was a piece of trash and that they are geniuses, but now, where are they? I am here and I want to die, but they don't dare to fight. If you are willing to, you can also come down. I really want to die. How insane. How shocking. Lin Feng was inviting the ninth elder to come onto the fighting stage to kill him as well. He really had a death wish. The ninth elder narrowed his eyes and looked at Lin Qian and Lin Hong. He then immediately smiled coldly and said, Lin Feng, Lin Qian and Lin Hong are geniuses of the Lin clan. It would be a humiliation for them to fight against you, but since you want to die, I should help you. When he finished talking, the ninth elder jumped onto the fighting stage, immediately landing in front of Lin Feng. What an impressive agility technique, how beautiful. Lin Feng surprisingly challenged the ninth elder to a battle. How insane, he really wants to die. The ninth elder has broken through to the fifth Ling Qi layer. He definitely deserves his reputation as a strong cultivator. He is extremely powerful. Lin Feng is already dead. The crowd had various thoughts about the ninth elder when they saw him jump onto the fighting stage. At the same time, an insane quantity of ice qi concentrated itself on his fist and suddenly bombarded the atmosphere, moving straight towards Lin Feng. It seemed like Lin Feng was going to freeze on the spot. Lin Feng was calmly standing there, looking at the ninth elder, who had an evil smile on his face. Die, shouted the ninth elder, but at that moment, Lin Feng waved his hand and cut the atmosphere. A bright and resplendent sword qi flashed in the air. Immediately after, the ninth elder didn't even have the time to give a horrible shriek before his blood filled the air. He just pitifully groaned and collapsed. His facial expression looked calm, his body was lifeless. The crowd was astonished and their hearts were violently pounding. They were shocked, dumbstruck. Had the ninth elder died? The ninth elder had been killed by Lin Feng with a single blow? The crowd was dumbstruck and terrified. They only saw Lin Feng look at the corpse on the ground and say with an indifferent tone, a piece of trash. Lin Feng walked forwards again. He looked at the crowd with an insane smile on his face. I, Lin Feng, want to die. I, Lin Feng, want to die. I, Lin Feng, want to die. His furious shout was echoing throughout people's hearts like the waves of a tsunami. The words, I want to die, were so arrogant. He had been expelled from the clan, and at this moment, he was looking down on everyone. The one everyone used to call a piece of trash was at this moment, looking down on the clan and mocking them as if they meant nothing. I, Lin Feng, the piece of trash who was expelled from the clan. Lin Feng kept joking. In the past, during the competition of Yangzhou City, he had also said things that sounded insane at the time, but his power shocked everyone. Back then, he was already much stronger than Lin Qian. Lin Qian could not rival him. Besides, these days, even though Lin Qian had broken through to the fourth Ling Qi layer, Lin Feng had just killed the ninth elder who was at the fifth Ling Qi layer with a single attack. How strong was he really? Could Lin Qian rival such a monster? Lin Feng was the most outstanding disciple of the Lin clan, but such a genius had been expelled. Why is nobody speaking? Said Lin Feng. The crowd only stared at him. They all remained absolutely silent. Lin Feng couldn't help but keep mocking them. Before I arrived, were you not all flattering Lin Qian and Lin Badao? Were you not all just criticizing my father and me to gain his good graces? Now, I am standing before you, but each and every single person here has suddenly become deaf and mute. If I am a piece of trash, you are a bunch of shameless, low-life, worthless cultivators. Lin Feng's voice was piercing through the silent atmosphere. Everyone's faces were turning bright red. They were looking at Lin Feng with killing intent in their eyes. Your father and you are the same, traitors, who don't respect the elders of the clan. You are both filthy animals. At that moment, a furious voice interrupted. It came from Lin Feng's third uncle, Lin Haoran. When he saw Lin Feng, he remembered his son, who had been crippled by Lin Feng and became filled with jealousy, but this jealousy quickly turned into hatred. Lin Feng was stupefied. A sharp expression filled his eyes and he glared at Lin Haoran. A traitor, his father and he were animals? Incredibly, it is possible to reach such a high level of shamelessness, said Lin Feng coldly and then added, back in the past, my father and I never offended you, but because you wanted his position as head of the clan, you humiliated me and threatened my father. You wanted to replace him as the clan head using despicable methods. Have you ever thought about the fact that he was your brother? After that, because you created an opportunity to reach your goal, the respectable elder attacked and injured my father. Then you expelled us from the Lin clan. You are really shameless. Besides, during the annual competition of Yangzhou City, I started to reveal outstanding talent, but you were afraid of my talent, which is why you tried to kill me. Did you think about our blood relations at that time? Now, you are calling me a traitor? Why is that? You attack your own brother, the head of your clan, and you dare to call other people traitors. You chose to replace my father with someone else. I, Lin Feng, have nothing to do with scum like you. There is only humiliation to gain from associating with you. I, Lin Feng, have returned. Lin Hao ran, if you criticize my father again, I will kill you. When Lin Feng said those words, an immense quantity of sword chi whistled through the atmosphere. Lin Feng looked like a powerful sword at that moment. He was infinitely sharp, dazzling, brutal and aggressive. Lin Feng surprisingly dared to threaten his third uncle, threatening to kill him. That was a huge humiliation for Lin Haoran, to be threatened by Lin Feng in public like that. He coldly said, "Your father is an animal, and the son of an animal is an animal, so you are both filthy animals." How could Lin Haoran be intimidated by a little boy to the extent that he wouldn't dare to speak? Boom! Lin Haoran's words reached Lin Feng's ears. An invisible pressure suddenly fell onto everyone's shoulders. Lin Feng was spinning around and seemed to have transformed into a sword, an extremely sharp one. An incredible sword energy overwhelmed the entire atmosphere. The crowd was gasping in astonishment. How powerful! It seemed like they had underestimated Lin Feng. He seemed to be much stronger than all of them. The invisible sword energy was surrounding the entire crowd. They were all fixedly staring at Lin Feng. He had become so monstrously strong. Lin Haoran's heart was pounding. Nobody knew that the energy which was now oppressing his body was painfully sharp. He was controlling himself, but his facial expression was changing drastically, his heart was pounding. Panic-stricken, he was fixedly staring at Lin Feng. How strong! That sword chi is way too strong. Lin Haoran thought. How strong had Lin Feng become? Lin Haoran was absolutely terrified and regretted what he just said to Lin Feng. Die! Shouted Lin Feng furiously. The invisible sword energy turned into a sharp sword. Lin Feng jumped into the air. It seemed like his entire body transformed into a sword, an extremely sharp and devastating sword. The crowd was dumbstruck, to the extent that they forgot to try to stop Lin Feng. Even if they did see him coming, they couldn't afford to take the risk of getting in his way. An incredibly brilliant and resplendent light filled the atmosphere. There was no sword, only the light glow given from sword energy. Lin Haoran felt hopeless and his facial expression gradually dropped and blood started to pour from a hole that had been pierced between his eyebrows. One strike and his life had ended. As before, only one strike. Lin Feng moved back to his original position on the stage. There was nothing in his hand, but sword chi was still present in the atmosphere. That incredibly daring young man confused everyone in the crowd. Where was his sword? He was such a genius, yet he had been expelled from the clan. At that moment, he had come back to regain his dignity. You killed your third uncle, said Lin Badao while looking at the corpse. He was looking at Lin Feng in an ice-cold way with killing intent in his eyes. Third uncle, said Lin Feng while laughing and then added, Lin Badao, you and Lin Haoran, have you ever acted like my uncles? Lin Badao was stupefied. He and Lin Haoran had indeed plotted against Lin Feng's father. Lin Feng had never been like a nephew for them. You have never regarded me as your nephew. You always regarded me as a piece of trash and humiliated me. You expelled me from the clan and even tried to kill me. At that moment, you never thought that you were my uncle, right? Now that I have killed him, you just now remember that he was my uncle. Lin Badao, don't you think that you are being ridiculous? Lin Feng said mockingly and continued, besides, now I am no longer a member of the Lin clan. If anyone dares to insult my father, I will kill them. Once again, Lin Feng was openly threatening everyone, his words were extremely harsh. At that moment, Lin Feng's words were like sharp swords. Amongst the people of the Lin clan, many were regretting that Lin Feng had been expelled from the clan. If he had been in the Lin clan, he would have been much more prestigious than Lin Qian. However, everybody remained silent. The atmosphere was horrifyingly silent. Lin Feng's expression looked like he wanted to burst into laughter. He said, "Now, the cowardly atmosphere is contagious in the Lin clan. There is only a bunch of little people left who don't know how to do anything but unceasingly flatter Lin Badao, the clan head. None of you has any strength of character and the clan has no future. This is ridiculous and sad. Lin Badao, this is the result created from you becoming the clan head." When Lin Feng finished talking, everybody was astonished. They realized that what Lin Feng said was the truth. At that moment, he was standing on the fighting stage and nobody could rival him, everyone remained silent. If Lin Hai had been there, he would have been a source of inspiration, even though he did not show himself often. He didn't resemble Lin Badao. The people of the Lin clan, when they heard Lin Feng's making fun of them, all felt humiliated. "Lin Badao, in the past, you plotted against my father and me to make us leave the clan. Now, I am back to reclaim our dignity and honor on the fighting stage. Lin Badao, can you act like a real man for once in your cowardly life and join me on the fighting stage?" Lin Feng was challenging Lin Badao. Lin Badao looked uncertain. Lin Feng, who had been expelled by him, surprisingly challenged him. How strong was he? The crowd looked at Lin Badao. Lin Badao slowly stood up, but suddenly heard Lin Qian shout, "Father, don't fight against him." The crowd was stupefied and looked at Lin Qian. They only saw Lin Qian was unceasingly shaking her head and stopping her father. Lin Qian wanted to prevent her father from fighting against Lin Feng. When Lin Feng arrived, he challenged Lin Qian. Lin Qian had not even considered fighting against Lin Feng. Could it be that she knew his real strength? Did Lin Qian know where Lin Feng had been this whole time? Did she also know his real strength? "Traitor!" shouted a voice which filled the atmosphere. A silhouette was rushing through the air. He looked majestic. Many people were delighted to see the silhouette appear. It was the respectable elder, Lin Rui. In the past, he injured Lin Hai and also contributed to Lin Feng and Lin Hai's expulsion from the clan. Now, he was showing himself again. Lin Feng was definitely going to die. Respectable elder, all the members of the Lin clan were slightly bowing in front of Lin Rui, who was descending from the sky. His voice was ice cold and he said, "The son of the traitor has come back. Everybody, hurry up and kill him. You have to kill any traitors that enter our territory. Everyone." They had to capture him together. The crowd was stupefied. Lin Badao, however, immediately nodded and said, "Members of the Lin clan, listen to the order, kill Lin Feng." When Lin Badao finished talking, many people started to reluctantly walk towards the fighting stage. Lin Feng glanced at the crowd and a demonic smile appeared on his face. Together? Everyone against him. So they wanted an unfair fight, right? At the Na Lan clan, Lin Feng had not personally fought. Using his authority, he had controlled everything with only his words. However, he had gone to the Lin clan for a different reason. He wanted to regain his honor and dignity. This time, he wanted to regain his honor on the fighting stage, not using his status and authority. But at the moment, the Lin clan wanted to attack him, the whole clan against him. Lin Feng laughed, gazed towards the sky and shouted, "Order." What's going on? What's going on? What's happening? The members of the Lin clan were stupefied. Suddenly they heard a rumbling noise fill the atmosphere, but it was coming from every direction. It seemed like there was an earthquake and the ground was trembling. Boom! 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 The incredibly loud booms filled the atmosphere. It seemed like the buildings were about to collapse from the vibrations. Someone was coming to attack the Lin clan. They were destroying the barricades in their district. The crowd was shaking. The sounds were moving closer with each second. The noises spread throughout the atmosphere along with the thumping of everyone's heartbeat. It sounded as if there was a stampede of thousands upon thousands of cavalry charging at full speed, and were approaching from the four corners of the Lin clan district. They immediately forced entry into the Lin clan's district and galloped towards the crowd. Respectable elder. The crowd looked around and looked at the majestic respectable elder. They were panicking. It seemed like an extremely heavy chi had fallen from the sky and landed on them. It was unceasing and getting nearer and nearer to the crowd. The crowd was in pain as the chi filling the atmosphere was so sharp that it could cut. They felt like they were suffocating under the intense pressure. The respectable elder, Lin Rui, was frowning. He could also feel the extremely strong chi moving towards them. Besides, he could tell that armored horses were charging towards them from all directions. How come so much cavalry were coming to the Lin clan? "Look over there," shouted someone in the crowd. The crowd looked at the north of the area. Immediately after, red silhouettes appeared in the distance. Red horses, red armor, how domineering and imposing. That was an entire army of Chi Xia cavalry. They were charging towards them, the people's hearts were racing. The people of the Lin clan were dumbstruck. How was that possible? Why would an extremely strong army of armored cavalry come to the Lin clan? "There are some over there as well," shouted the terrified crowd. There was an army to the south as well. And over there. The Chi Xia cavalry were coming from the east, from the west, from everywhere. Everybody was surrounded by Chi Xia troops. It was an endless sea of red. It was a magnificent and terrifying sight. The people's hearts were violently shaking. They were all suffering in silence. There was only the sound of the cavalry approaching. The crowd was just blankly staring at that whole scene. There were even some short moments when they had blackouts from the panic. That was an army, an extremely strong army. That army seemed to be endless as if there were millions of them. Besides, all of them had piercingly strong gazes and released brutally strong chi. That army must be painted red from the blood of their enemies. When the crowd sensed the brutally strong chi, their hearts started beating even faster. A blood-red army had appeared at Lin clan during their annual meeting, and was encircling them. If the army wanted to annihilate the Lin clan, it would be as easy as wiping away dust. Who are they? Why has such a powerful army come to the Lin clan? Everybody was absolutely astonished. None of them thought that there could be a relation between the extremely strong army and the young man standing on the fighting stage. They didn't dare to think about such a terrifying thought, not even in their worst nightmares. Even though Lin Feng had just shouted "order," they had already removed that from their minds. They had other things to worry about, and the crowd was completely focused on the powerful army. That strong and powerful army had encircled them. There were some horses moving out from the crowd. They were probably high-ranking personnel in the army. The members of the Lin clan were all moving aside, not daring to obstruct their path. They were surrounding the fighting stage, but they all gathered, facing Lin Feng. Lin Feng raised his hands and the high-ranking personnel moved towards Lin Feng. "That fool, is he tired of living?" The crowd was cursing at Lin Feng in their hearts. He was surprisingly still standing on the stage. They just hoped that he wouldn't get involved. At that moment, the cavalry stopped at the edge of the fighting stage and glanced at the crowd. Immediately, everybody's heart started pounding. These people's facial expressions were so sharp and cold. They were all extremely strong cultivators. The weakest in the army were at the same level as an elder of the Lin clan. The ones in charge were even stronger. Lin Rui was also extremely strong. Amongst the army, there were at least 3 people who were of similar power or slightly weaker than him. Besides, if there was a battle, there was one person in the army that might be able to kill Lin Rui alone. The Chi Xia troops were releasing their powerful chi. These people were born from battles and frequently bathed in the blood of their enemies. They were fighting gods. They were much stronger than an ordinary army. They had incredible battle experience and they were a step above normal cultivators. You have come to my Lin clan today, however I don't know what we can do for you, but I will do my best to help you in any way possible. Lin Rui looked at the army and spoke with a very respectful tone. He had adopted the strategy of diplomacy. If he made them angry, they could annihilate the entire clan. It was better for him to stay humble. At that moment, he was even bowing in an extremely respectful way. He was bowing the same way the people of the Lin clan had bowed to him previously. He seemed to be a different person when dealing with such a powerful army. However, the soldiers didn't pay attention to him, they didn't even spare him a glance. Immediately after, they jumped down from their horses, placed their hands on their chests and bowed while shouting in unison, "Officer! Officer!" Where was the officer? The crowd was stupefied. They looked around them like crazy and were looking for someone who looked like an officer of these powerful troops. Could it be that someone even stronger was about to arrive? Some small sound spread in the air. There were tens of thousands of soldiers here. Besides, what amazed the crowd was that some of them were kneeling on the ground. "Officer!" At that moment, a thunderous roar came from thousands of people shouting at the same time and the ground shook from the entire army kneeling down. The entire army was all kneeling down and saluting. That was an amazing vision. In Shuiyu, people only had to kneel down only in front of the imperial family to pay respect. In front of others, a simple bow was sufficient. But the troops were kneeling down as a sign of devotion and respect for their officer. They had dedicated their lives to their officer, it was their way of honoring their officer. At that moment, the entire army was kneeling down facing the same direction, the fighting stage. The tens of thousands of Qi Xia soldiers were kneeling and their brains were all thinking at incredible speeds, but their hearts were moving much faster than their minds. Surprisingly, these soldiers were saluting their officer by kneeling down. The crowd was looking around yet they couldn't see anyone who looked like a battle-hardened officer. Finally, they looked in the direction that the soldiers were facing, they were all facing the fighting stage. Everybody was blinking as if they couldn't believe their eyes. Impossible. Absolutely impossible, the crowd was finally looking at the young man standing on the fighting stage. Even though they had already guessed, nobody dared accept the truth, they didn't want to. A gentle breeze was blowing which made Lin Feng's robe start to flutter. He then slightly raised his hand and said, "Everybody, stand." "Roger, officer," said all the soldiers in unison and they all moved to their feet in perfect synchronization. The people in the crowd felt like a dagger had just been plunged into their chest, they were shaking as if they were about to collapse. Lin Feng, it was Lin Feng, surprisingly, it was actually Lin Feng. The crowd was dumbstruck. They couldn't believe their eyes. The one whom all the troops were kneeling down and saluting was surprisingly the only person standing on the fighting stage, Lin Feng. That was the young man whom they used to call a piece of trash and had expelled from the Lin clan. The crowd couldn't believe what was happening. Lin Rui groaned, his blood was boiling, he almost coughed a mouthful of blood. He was fixedly staring at Lin Feng. "Officer! How is such a thing possible?" thought Lin Rui astonished. Lin Ba Dao also couldn't believe it. The officer surprisingly was Lin Feng. They suddenly realized what was happening and what was about to happen. Lin Feng had come to the Lin clan to regain his honor, but he did not come alone. Cough cough. Lin Ba Dao was coughing up blood. He turned deathly pale. They were finished, this would be the end. Together, come onto the fighting stage and kill me, what are you waiting for? Together, come onto the fighting stage and kill me, what are you waiting for? Lin Feng was looking at the crowd while sounding cold and detached. The people of the Lin clan were shaking. Would they dare? Such a strong army just required a few seconds to annihilate the Lin clan and slaughter all of its members. Would they still dare to attack Lin Feng together? Respectable elder, you are very majestic. Originally, you gave the order for them to attack me in a group, now you are standing there and doing nothing at all, what is that supposed to mean? Lin Feng was smiling mockingly. The respectable elder's face became rigid. His lips were shaking but the words wouldn't come out. At that moment, everyone's lives were in Lin Feng's hands. Respectable elder, you are very strong. You attacked my father from behind and injured him in a single strike. You also expelled my father and I from the Lin clan. How domineering, how imposing. Now, I will give you an opportunity to show your invincible power to everybody again. When Lin Feng saw that Lin Rui was remaining silent, he continued talking. Back in the past, his father had displayed amazing power and strength. Nobody dared fight him to the extent that even the respectable elder Lin Rui had to personally appear to injure Lin Hai. After that, he had expelled them from the clan. How could Lin Feng forget Lin Rui? You expelled my father and me from the clan. When the crowd heard those words, they all looked puzzled. Indeed, the officer, who was controlling such a terrifying army, belonged to their clan, but he had been expelled. Lin Feng, while relying on his own strength, had become incredibly strong. He had easily killed the 9th elder and Lin Hao ran. Besides, he had also become the officer of the Qi Xia army. He was respected by thousands upon thousands of people. Even without mentioning the tiny little Lin clan, at that moment, Lin Feng could even annihilate the entire city of Yangzhou. But such an amazing genius had been expelled from the Lin clan. He was forced to leave. What sort of joke was that? However, that was the bitter reality and it certainly saddened many of the clan members. Such geniuses appeared once every 1,000 years. But they expelled him and caused him to feel hatred towards the clan. If Lin Feng was in the clan, how prestigious would our clan be? Many people were trying to imagine what would have happened if Lin Feng hadn't been expelled from the Lin clan. With Lin Feng's current power, he had managed to obtain Yangzhou city, so if Lin Feng was still in their clan, it would mean that the entire city of Yangzhou would have belonged to the Lin clan. Their dream was to overtake the Na-Lan clan as the top clan in the city, but the task of making that dream come true had been assigned to Lin Qian. The Lin clan could have actually owned the entire city of Yangzhou. Compared to their dream, this was a much larger achievement. However, because of one wrong decision, they had taken the wrong path. Lin Rui was looking at Lin Feng yet remained silent. He had expelled Lin Feng from the clan. Was he blind? Since you're not talking at all, I will help you. I will give you two choices. The first one is you attempt to get onto the fighting stage together and see the result. The second choice is you and me battle. If you win, I will immediately withdraw the army from the Lin clan. When Lin Feng saw that Lin Rui remained uncommunicative, Lin Feng offered a choice which astonished the crowd. They wouldn't have thought that Lin Feng would give such a choice to Lin Rui. Lin Rui had the opportunity to defeat Lin Feng and make him withdraw the army. Lin Rui was the respectable elder of the Lin clan. He was extremely strong and was only a step away from breaking into the Xian Qi layer. Each of his attacks were extremely powerful. Besides, how old was Lin Feng? Even though he was a genius, how could he fight against Lin Rui? Lin Feng is so young and proud. He refuses to back down because he is a genius. He already controls an entire army, that's why he acts so confident, thought the members of the Lin clan. In their eyes, Lin Feng was a genius, but he would never be able to defeat Lin Rui. Lin Rui was about 80 years old, how could he let a young boy defeat him? Lin Feng, are you joking? Lin Rui hadn't even spoken yet and Lin Ba Dao had already interrupted. They were facing an incredible army, so none of them actually dared to think about fighting. If Lin Feng wanted them to die, they would die. Lin Ba Dao only hoped for one thing, that Lin Feng would withdraw the army. Lin Feng slowly turned around and looked at Lin Ba Dao. Lin Feng smiled as if he was going to mock them again. I'm sorry Lin Ba Dao, included in my terms is one detail, no matter if I win or if Lin Rui wins, you, Lin Ba Dao, will die here. Lin Feng's voice wasn't loud, but Lin Ba Dao was astonished. His heart felt ice cold. Cold qi was emerging from his body. No matter who won the battle, Lin Ba Dao was going to die. Of course, I will give you an opportunity. If you manage to kill the respectable elder, I will forget about our past, said Lin Feng while laughing. Lin Badao was astonished. He immediately glanced at Lin Rui. Impossible. I, Lin Badao, am not that kind of person. Lin Rui is my elder, I would never attack him, said Lin Badao with a tone of morality and justice. His devotion to righteousness inspired reverence. All the people of the Lin clan were slightly nodding in agreement. Slash! At that moment an attack was cutting through the atmosphere. Lin Badao's hand was surrounded by a cold twinkling light. A dagger was rushing towards Lin Rui's back at full speed. It was a cold-blooded surprise attack aimed to kill Lin Rui. The crowd was stupefied. Lin Badao's words were still fresh in their minds, but he was already launching a sneak attack. He had proved his own hypocrisy. In order to save his own life, Lin Badao was ready to reveal his shameless nature. How dare you, shouted Lin Rui. At the moment when Lin Badao's dagger had almost reached Lin Rui released a piercingly cold ice energy as well as his spirit. In a flash, Lin Badao's dagger and hand were frozen solid. Die! The respectable elder's furious shout spread through the atmosphere. Lin Rui's palm reached Lin Badao's chest. Immediately after, he was covered with a layer of ice, as if he was about to be sealed within the ice. Old fool! Lin Feng was smiling coldly. Lin Badao had attacked, but Lin Rui retaliated at the exact same time. He had been protecting Lin Badao this whole time. On the path of cultivation, there were too many people who, for their lives, were ready to sacrifice the people around them. Lin Rui had lived for almost 80 years, how could he believe the words which just left Lin Badao's mouth? Lin Badao, I have always been good to you and you dare to try and attack me by surprise. Don't blame for being rude now, said Lin Rui with killing intent in his voice. The piercingly cold energy emerging from his body was becoming more and more intense. No! Father! Lin Rui, don't you dare! At that moment, two people shouted furiously. It was Lin Qian and her brother. They both threw themselves at Lin Rui. Screw off! Lin Rui raised his hand and released his ice energy. How could he still care about Lin Qian at that moment? All he cared about was his own life. Die! Shouted Lin Rui evilly. His ice energy was condensed into all of his attacks. Lin Badao was shaking, his body twitched twice. In a flash, the condensed ice energy burst forth and he was frozen to death. Lin Badao, because he wanted to become the head of the Lin clan, had unscrupulously employed unethical methods and plotted against members of his own family. In the end, the result was tragic. Father, cried the two voices. Lin Rui was expressionless. He slowly turned around, he looked brutally cold. Was the Lin clan really a family? How could they kill each other so easily and without mercy? Lin Badao wanted to kill Lin Rui, but Lin Rui killed him. All these people were now showing their true colors and how treacherous they really were. Lin Rui looked at Lin Feng and jumped onto the fighting stage. He then said to Lin Feng, Lin Badao is dead. I killed him for you. Besides, Lin Feng, you are an outstanding genius, I admit that I was blind. Today, let's fight. If I lose, I will accept my death. Lin Rui's words were inspiring and filled with a lofty and righteous aura, but Lin Feng didn't seem to care at all. What an old fool. Saying such nice things to try and awake some compassion in Lin Feng's heart, he had lived for so many years and was adept at scheming. He had cold-bloodedly killed Lin Badao without the slightest bit of hesitation. No need to say such flowery words, don't worry, if you win, I will withdraw my army, if you lose, it is not that you will accept death, you will beg for it. Lin Feng sounded calm. He then added, alright, let's begin. I'm attacking, be careful, said Lin Rui while nodding. His ice spirit was invading the atmosphere with a powerful energy. The coldness was piercing to the bones. He took a step forwards and ice chi rushed towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng shook his head. They were fighting, Lin Rui didn't have to be so polite to him. Lin Feng moved his right foot forward and raised his arm with a fierce sword energy. At the moment, when the sword energy was about to reach Lin Rui's body, Lin Feng slashed his hand down. A hero at dusk, under the setting sun, the brilliance was slowly fading. When Lin Rui saw Lin Feng's hand, he felt like he was seeing an illusion. He had the feeling that the sun was starting to set. Sword of the setting sun. Lin Feng had used his hand as the sword. His hand cut through the atmosphere, blood sprayed into the air and Lin Rui's arm was sent flying through the air. One strike was enough to remove one of Lin Rui's arms. When the crowd saw that arm flying in the air, they were astonished once again. When the crowd saw that arm flying in the air, they were astonished once again. That attack didn't diffuse resplendent light, they hadn't even seen a sword. Lin Feng's sword was his hand. His entire body was a sword. It was a sword without brightness and splendor. In a short time, Lin Feng surprisingly had become extremely strong. Even the respectable elder couldn't rival him anymore. He hadn't even been able to withstand a single attack. Lin Rui had the strength of the 9th Ling Qi layer, he just needed one more step to reach the Xian Qi layer. But what was Lin Feng's level? Lin Feng was only 17 years old and was young like many of the juniors of the Lin clan, but the people of the Lin clan always relied on their parents and on the clan. Lin Feng was absolutely different from the others because he was already extremely strong and already controlled an army. That was a huge difference and the young people of the Lin clan would be unable to catch up with him. That young man who had been expelled from the Lin clan was already above their entire clan and made them prostrate themselves before him. Ah! Lin Rui gave a horrible shriek. He raised his remaining arm and released all the ice chi that he could, not hesitating and putting everything into his attack. But Lin Feng moved again, he was quick and agile. He seemed moved in fusion with the earth, he looked mysterious. A light flashed, immediately, Lin Rui's hand slightly touched Lin Feng's shoulder and ice started to appear, but then Lin Feng slightly moved his hand and a sword light filled the atmosphere. Slash! Lin Feng's hand slashed like a meteor, blood sprayed and filled the air. Lin Rui's other arm had just been cut off. Lin Feng had cut it off as easily as the first arm. Lin Feng was much stronger than Lin Rui. Lin Feng dashed past Lin Rui and at that moment, he was behind Lin Rui's back, Lin Feng's hand had pierced his back and he looked calm and peaceful. Ah! A cry of agony spread in the air. Lin Rui had the impression that the world around him was vibrating. His body was violently shaking. Blood didn't stop flowing onto the ground, but Lin Rui's heart felt even more painful than his arms which had been cut off. If Lin Feng didn't kill him, he crippled his cultivation. Respectable elder, back in the past, you were very strong and controlled everything. You could do whatever you wished. You expelled my father and me from the clan, you chose a new clan head, you attacked and hurt my father. Now, I came back and I am stronger than you, therefore, I now control everything. I can now do as I wish. If I want to cut your arms off, I can, if I want to kill you, I can. Lin Feng's voice was coming from Lin Rui's back, these words were the harsh reality. Strength was the most important thing in that world. If one was strong, one had power over weaker people and could thus do as they wished. Lin Rui used to have the advantage, he had injured Lin Feng's father and had expelled him. Now, Lin Feng was stronger than him and had easily cut off his arms, who could do anything against that? If he wanted to cripple anyone's cultivation, he could. If he wanted to kill anyone, he could. Lin Rui's heart was bleeding. At that moment, his heart was filled with venom but his mouth was firmly closed. He didn't dare say anything to Lin Feng. Lin Feng was right, in that world, the strong could control everything. If Lin Rui wanted to stay alive, he had to keep his mouth shut, even if he hated Lin Feng. Becoming a cripple is still better than dying. Lin Rui was already old and cherished life, he didn't want to die. Lin Rui, today, I will have mercy on you and will not kill you. You are now half dead. I cut off your arms because of what you did in the past. Now you need to vanish from my sight. If, someday, you have the possibility of getting your revenge, come at me, said Lin Feng, sounding cold and detached. No matter what his status was, in that world, all that mattered was strength. Lin Rui was shaking. He turned around and looked at Lin Feng. Immediately after, he started walking and slowly left. He looked lonely and desolate. That was the price he had to pay for having made such a grave mistake in the past. After Lin Rui left, Lin Feng gazed into the distance and then looked at the Great Elder and the Third Elder. He said, sounding cold and indifferent, Great Elder, Third Elder, you two can cripple your own cultivation. Don't make me do it personally, otherwise, there will be an extra fee of 2 arms. Lin Feng sounded calm and serene while the 2 elders were deathly pale. They should have expected it. Lin Feng was getting his revenge for all the bad things they had all done to him in the past. Back then, they kept humiliating Lin Feng, forced him to leave. These 2 people had been Lin Badao's accomplices. That's why Lin Feng wanted to make them cripple their own cultivation. When the Great Elder saw the armless silhouette in the distance, he suddenly burst into an insane laughter. Immediately after, he moved his hand and bombarded his own cultivation. He groaned and blood gushed from his mouth. He had crippled his own cultivation. The Third Elder was shaking. He was slowly and hesitantly moving his hand, but not attacking. Third Elder, if you don't want to die, cripple your own cultivation immediately, said the Great Elder, sounding tense. The Third Elder was shaking even more. He glanced at the Great Elder and crippled his own cultivation as well. The head of the clan, Lin Badao, had died, the third uncle Lin Hao Ran had died, the 9th elder had died, the respectable elder no longer had arms, the Great Elder and Third Elder had crippled their own cultivation. Lin Feng had come back and spread terror amongst people's hearts. Lin Feng was standing on the fighting stage and looking at the crowd, sounding indifferent. He said, all others, I will not touch you, even if you hate me, that is, of course, providing that you behave properly. Of course, if you want to get your revenge, you can also come and find me. The best thing is for you to think carefully about your future though. When Lin Feng finished talking, he turned around and moved down from the stage. He raised his hand. In a flash, the myriad of troops climbed onto their horses. They were a perfectly trained elite army. Lin Feng and the troops were making history together. Lin Feng also jumped onto his horse that was brought. He looked domineering. Let's go, said Lin Feng, sounding indifferent. At that moment, a voice spread in the atmosphere. Wait, wait. When Lin Feng heard that voice, he stopped but didn't turn around. He just waited for the other person to talk. Lin Feng, will you consider coming back to the Lin clan? Said a hopeless-sounding voice which made everybody else shiver and look towards Lin Feng. Indeed, would Lin Feng ever return to the Lin clan? If Lin Feng accepted to go back to the Lin clan, not only would it give him nothing but it would give incredible prestige to the Lin clan. It would make them become one of the most prestigious clans in the entire region. That hopeless voice was resonating in people's hearts, but nobody dared speak. The same person spoke again. If you are willing to come back to the Lin clan, we can make all those who opposed you in the past leave the clan, including Lin Qian. The person spoke again because they had seen that Lin Feng remained silent. The whole crowd was quiet. Indeed, if Lin Feng accepted, they could forget about Lin Qian, just like they did to Lin Feng in the past. Back in the past, they had chosen the proud and arrogant Lin Qian, who couldn't rival with Lin Feng any longer. Lin Qian looked at Lin Badao's corpse and felt extremely sad. She used to be the pride of the Lin clan. Even in Yangzhou City, many people respected her, but because of Lin Feng, her glory had been destroyed. Lin Feng was much more prestigious than her. Lin Qian could still vaguely remember when she had gone to the Yunhai sect and humiliated Lin Feng while looking down on him, but all of this was already the past. Back in the past, when I was expelled from the Lin clan, nobody said a word. Now that you see that I am strong and have a high status and you want me to come back to the clan, is that even possible? There are some things which cannot be taken back. Lin Feng was on his horse. He didn't even turn around to look at them. Immediately after, he left at full speed with his horse emitting whistling sounds through the atmosphere. The myriad of Qi Xia troops seemed to be flying. The ground was shaking along with people's hearts. The Lin clan were all looking at the leaving silhouettes. Their hearts were filled with mixed feelings. Some things could not be taken back. Lin Feng was right when everybody kept humiliating him. Who had said a word? Who spared even a single word to help Lin Feng? When the Lin clan wanted to kill Lin Feng, who had said anything to try and save him? These days, Lin Feng was extremely strong and was the officer of a huge army, only now they wanted him to go back to the clan. Was that even possible? They could never get back what they threw away and discarded, never. At the end of the year, Yangzhou City was always extraordinarily lively. On the road, people were standing around in small groups. At the end of the year, Yangzhou City was always extraordinarily lively. On the road, people were standing around in small groups. At that moment, in Yangzhou City, there was a majestic army composed of Qi Xia armored cavalry. They were making an inspection tour of the city. All of them looked domineering and imposing. Everybody was looking at them with a deep respect. The Qi Xia troops are extremely majestic. It is said that they are all elite soldiers. Now, they are in our city. On the road, the Qi Xia horses were trotting. The crowd was looking at these majestic horses. Some people were talking about them. That is an honor for our city. Now that the Qi Xia troops are here, we are incredibly prestigious within the entire region. Who will dare provoke us? You're right, last year, I had the chance to see the Qi Xia officer with my own eyes. He was only about 16 years old, but at the annual cultivation meeting of Yangzhou City, he had displayed incredible abilities. He was much stronger than Na Lan Feng or Lin Qian. They couldn't even withstand a single attack. At that moment, I already knew that the officer would become an incredible person. I just wouldn't have thought that it would happen in such a short period of time, said a man with a long mustache. He sounded so proud that it made people around him feel exasperated. 1 year before, there had been a young man at the cultivation meeting of Yangzhou City, but the members belonging to the biggest clans had attacked him and forced him to escape. 1 year later, that young man had become more mature, more determined, and extremely strong. He looked extremely majestic and imposing on his horse, controlling several thousand soldiers. He had returned to Yangzhou City as a glorious young hero. Since that moment, the 4 big clans of Yangzhou City had sunk to new lows. There was only Lin Feng controlling a military government. He had replaced the former government and shut out the clans from city affairs. But the people were excited and delighted by all of this. They had heard that Lin Feng wanted to build a Qi Xia castle and take measures to make Yangzhou City grow more influential. Yangzhou people were, of course, happy because they would be able to enjoy more benefits, including benefits for their practice of cultivation. At that moment, the government infrastructure was in constant change. The Qi Xia troops were busy enlarging the government palace. Within 1 day, all the walls surrounding the government had been destroyed. At that moment, Lin Feng was standing in an underground passage. While looking at the tunnel, Lin Feng looked pensive. The Qi Xia troops had just finished digging this passageway and it was pitch dark. Strong as they were, they had already done half of the work for him. Since Lin Feng had become the officer of such powerful soldiers, he, of course, used them to accomplish difficult tasks. His silhouette flickered and he disappeared down the passageway. After a short moment, he appeared in the middle of a room. In front of him was a huge table. Standing on the left and right of the table, there were 3 silhouettes. They looked pensive. These 3 people were the former middle, left and right officers, Ren Qingquang, Feng Yuhan and Lei Qingtian. They all used to have their own armies, but now, they were assisting Lin Feng and staying by his side. Lin Feng, look, we are here we can dig a river. Then, we can build towers on these 8 strategic locations. The government building is in a valley, so even people of the Xian Qi layer come. In normal circumstances, we should be able to defeat them. Feng Yuhan sounded full of confidence. The Qi Xia troops were elite soldiers. Ren Qingquang was an expert at planning and defensive military strategy. The left officer, Feng Yuhan, was an expert at organizing military formations and offensive strategies. The right officer, Lei Qing Tian, was an expert at organizing a geographical strategy and modifying terrain to protect the troops. They were all extremely skilled officers. Obviously, controlling such a huge army required them to divide the tasks. All these officers had their own tasks to fulfill. Lin Feng was carefully observing the table. He slightly nodded and said, "Uncle Feng, you can reorganize the city as you wish. I just need you to help me build a secret underground city." Constructing an underground city will not be difficult now because the troops are extremely happy to follow your orders. However, the imperial city will not help us again. We have to rely on ourselves. If we spend too much time and money on all of this, it might become complicated. Besides, the troops could also lose their enthusiasm over time. Lin Feng slightly nodded. That was indeed a problem. Currently, the troops were in a perfect state of mind. Even if they accepted to help and invest from their own pocket, that wasn't a solution for the long term. An army was extremely strong but also required a lot of things. They required pills, purity stones, weapons, armor and battle horses. Besides, constructing all these things in Yangzhou City also required a colossal amount of resources. I understand. I will find a solution for all of this, said Lin Feng. Immediately after, he looked at Ren Qingquang and Lei Qing Tian and said, "Uncle Ren, you can take care of the weapons and constructions. Uncle Lei, you can take care of the guards and protection of the city. You are all working very hard, thank you." "All right. Don't worry, I can do it." The two officers replied to Lin Feng. These days, Yangzhou City was Lin Feng's fief. He could not let the army suffer. He had to make his army become even stronger and expand his power. He still remembered the memories from the strong cultivator. They were all extremely valuable and precious memories with vast knowledge. Sooner or later, the city of Yangzhou would rise and draw the attention of the entire country. Lin Feng didn't intend to go back to the imperial city in the following months. He wanted to concentrate his attention on Yangzhou City. "Uncles, you are all working very hard, thank you." Lin Feng looked grateful. These three people used to be officers and these days, they were following and assisting him. That would always remain engraved in Lin Feng's memory. Lin Feng, the three of us, as well as Zhou Qixia followed the general even at the cost of our lives. Now, the general's heart had died with Zhou Qixia. The three of us, in short, are willing to help you because the general trusts you with the future of the army, and because of that we trust you too. Ren Qingquang was looking at Lin Feng and his eyes were filled with hope. Lin Feng was extremely frivolous and had dared to kill Duan Tianlang's son, Duan Han, for Lu Tsanglan. If Lin Feng didn't become extremely powerful, the three of them would give up because it was clear to them that these days, Lu Tsanglan's heart was no longer the same, he didn't have the same ambition as he used to. If they were on Lu Tsanglan's side, there wouldn't be much to do. Therefore, they had listened to Lu Tsanglan and had decided to follow Lin Feng and help him achieve his ambitions. Only they could understand the glory of such things. Lin Feng understood that as well, which is why he had to be extremely ambitious. In a clean and tidy room, all the furniture was brand new. Lin Feng pushed the door and entered that room. There was a gorgeous silhouette sluggishly lying on a bed and looking at the ceiling. It was impossible to say what that person was thinking. Meng Qing looked at Lin Feng and then turned around again. She looked as cold as before. Lin Feng smiled wryly. How come he hadn't managed to make her heart melt yet? But it was also very clear to Lin Feng that these days, he could freely enter Meng Qing's room. That was already a good thing. If it had been someone else, that person would probably have been frozen stiff by Meng Qing. Only Lin Feng could go into her room. Lin Feng walked towards Meng Qing and spoke in a low voice. "What are you thinking about?" Meng Qing slightly shook her head and said, "Nothing." Lin Feng got closer to the bed and slowly sat down. Meng Qing moved her legs away allowing Lin Feng to sit down. "Are you thinking about me?" asked Lin Feng with a smile on his face. But Meng Qing was just calmly looking at him coldly, which made Lin Feng's face become rigid. That girl was way too difficult to understand. Meng Qing, still lying on the bed, looked at the ceiling again, ignoring Lin Feng. Lin Feng slightly moved closer to Meng Qing, which made her move back a bit more. She was extremely shy and nervous. Actually, Lin Feng was nervous too. It was the first time that he had fallen in love with someone. It was also the first time that he embraced and kissed a girl. How could he not be nervous? Even though he could use his sword and remain calm in the middle of a bloodbath, when it came to girls, Lin Feng was very nervous. Maybe he lacked experience. Meng Qing, have a good rest, said Lin Feng while standing up and looking at Meng Qing. Immediately after, he turned around and started to leave. After Lin Feng left, Meng Qing raised her head. She was excited and embarrassed at the same time. She sat down and put her hands on her knees. She looked pensive. She wanted to remember a smile. In her thoughts slowly appeared a smile, a warm smile. 3 months later, many things had been constructed in Yangzhou City. There were vast new buildings that had been constructed. Besides, there were also 8 huge towers, which were a few hundred meters high, and when looking up at them, they seemed to reach the stars. Besides, the old government building had become the headquarters for the new government. It was much more extravagant than in the past. Besides, it was very lively inside and there were things constantly going on. However, the people didn't know what was happening there apart from the fact that the government was undergoing reconstruction. In an underground place, Lin Feng was sitting cross-legged, motionless. At that moment, Lin Feng had the feeling that he had reached an extremely high level of earth fusion. In his mind, there was a dark world in which a myriad of bright lights were flashing. These lights were all in different corners, seeming unorganized. These disorderly and unsystematic lights seemed like they had been put there randomly, but actually, when looking at them from the right angle, one could notice a special form. It looked mysterious. Many surplus souls were moving towards these lights and finally, a strength attracted them. A light appeared between 2 lights and all of the lights seemed to be fused into a shape. The dark atmosphere slowly became brighter. Immediately after the lights appeared, the lights were getting more and more intense in that dark atmosphere. They were gathering together, making the dark atmosphere extremely bright and even dazzling. The lights were also moving faster and faster. The lights were slowly adopting a peculiar shape, the shape of 9 palaces. In Shuiyu, cultivators of the Xian Qi layer were considered as extremely strong cultivators because they could control and condense qi from the world to transform it into pure qi that could be used, thus benefiting from its strength. Each thread of pure qi contained a colossal amount of strength. At the same time, cultivators of the Xian Qi layer could also gradually learn how to control the strength of their soul, which helped them concoct pills and increased the power of pills, weapons, and their attacks. Besides, before breaking through to the Xian Qi layer, even though some people could use various strong methods, they still couldn't benefit from the strength of the soul, which strongly limited their abilities. Every cultivator of the Xian Qi layer had a few basic cultivation techniques. At least, they all practiced until they could perfectly control pure qi. There wasn't a single one of them who couldn't control it. However, pure qi control could be stronger or weaker. There could be large quantities and small quantities controlled by the cultivator. Weak pure qi control only enabled the cultivator to condense pure qi a little bit quicker. However, the strength was limited. Strong pure qi control enabled cultivators to unceasingly use stronger pure qi, but it required more time. At that moment, Lin Feng was practicing his pure qi condensation. Even though Lin Feng had a lot of purity stones, it wasn't enough to supply his army. Therefore, the thing was to provide his army with the best cultivation practices, in order to save the use of purity stones. At the moment, he was still in fusion with the earth. Lin Feng's eyes were closed. His consciousness was in a world filled with darkness and bright lights. His mouth moved, he then immediately said, "Condense." At that moment Lin Feng was insanely shaking, he groaned, his eyes slightly opened. Lin Feng coughed and raised his head. He looked around him. There were dazzling lights surrounding him and they were slowly condensing. When the last light was fused with the others, an incredibly dazzling aura appeared. There were 9 palaces and they started absorbing the pure chi of heaven and earth. Lin Feng couldn't bear the pain, but the shapes that appeared made him smile. The 9 small palaces of chi condensation, what a powerful technique. Lin Feng could feel the pure chi from the earth starting to gravitate towards him. The cultivation towers of the Celestial Academy provided incredible amounts of pure chi. The pure chi would be drawn towards the tower and would fill the rooms for cultivation practice. Lin Feng was now also able to condense pure chi. These 9 small palaces were already extremely powerful. The knowledge that the cultivator of the Zun Chi layer transmitted to me is, as expected, extraordinary. I have now been learning surplus souls and can make 100 surplus souls appear. My soul has also become much stronger, coupled with earth fusion. If I didn't have all these things, I wouldn't be able to condense chi to such a degree, whispered Lin Feng. His extremely strong soul was giving him the chance to become much stronger. The surplus souls technique as well as the earth fusion had been indispensable to him when it came to condensing pure chi. A moment before, people in the government building were stupefied. Above them in the sky there was a pattern that appeared. It looked like 9 palaces, but then, in the blink of an eye, they disappeared again. They had just sensed the pure chi as if all the chi of heaven and earth was moving towards them. At the same time, around the government building, many people were stupefied as well. They had also sensed the pure chi emerging from the earth, as if there had been a strange strength absorbing the powerful pure chi of heaven and earth. Only an extremely strong cultivator of the Xian Chi layer could have managed to condense pure chi like that. After the people sensed the chi, they all looked in the same direction, the government building. She wears a fine veil just like a celestial being. Of course I have seen her. Even though we can't see her face, I can guess that she's an exceptional woman. The officer couldn't be with a girl who doesn't match him. They definitely suit each other. People were making various comments. At that moment, Lin Feng's horse had already rushed past. Meng Qing, everybody is saying that you are my girlfriend, said Lin Feng on his horse while glancing at Meng Qing who was galloping next to him. Lin Feng was smiling, he had clearly heard what these people were saying. Meng Qing glanced at Lin Feng but didn't say anything. But Lin Feng kept smiling wholeheartedly. In the past, Meng Qing used to be ice-cold and expressionless. These days, she was at least looking at him, which could be considered as an improvement. A group of Qi Xie horses were leaving the government area, and then immediately they left Yangzhou City as well, galloping towards an ancient road. Celestial River was an ancient city with a history which dated back to millions of years. That majestic ancient city, even though it had gone through the challenges of time, still had the atmosphere of an ancient city. At the entrance gate, there was an incredibly artistic ferocious beast carved into the stone. It was a legendary wild beast, a phoenix. There was fire was burning on the back of its wings. That beast was filled with ancient chi. Celestial River also had another nickname, Phoenix City. Celestial River was situated in the middle of the Shuiyu country. It was surrounded by what seemed to be an endless desert. When one stretched one's eyes as far as one could see, there was nothing but yellow sand. However, that geographical position didn't affect the development of the city, which was a huge trading center, one of the biggest in Shuiyu. The city was filled with flourishing businesses of all sorts, including fields of real estate and different trade industries. Local people were very rare. Since the beginning of time, Celestial River had been a city in which people came to carry out transactions and find the objects they desired the most. With time, the local population had almost gone extinct and most of the population was businesses. There was a saying in Shuiyu which said, "If you need something, you will find it at Celestial River." In Celestial River, the average quantity of extremely strong cultivators was also higher than the national average, to the extent that it had some of the strongest cultivators of the country. Those who didn't have a high cultivation were embarrassed to go there, considering they would encounter strong cultivators on frequent occasions. On the street, when a person saw another unknown cultivator, maybe he was a cultivator of the Ling Qi layer or even of the Xian Qi layer. That contributed to making the city even more appealing. At that moment, outside of Celestial River, a group of Qi Xie horses were galloping on the yellow sand surrounded by a cloud of yellow dust. They were galloping towards Celestial River. That group was composed of only 3 people, Lin Feng and 2 others. Lin Feng and Meng Qing were galloping at the front, and Ba Dao, who was wearing a mask and following them. These days, Ba Dao seemed introverted. He was also able to better control his aggressiveness and his temper. Meng Qing, Celestial River carries out very liberal politics, you can enter as you wish. However, inside, it can be perilous, people are cruel and merciless. A person should not hide their presence or they may be attacked by others, said Lin Feng to Meng Qing. Meng Qing's lifestyle used to be completely different, so Lin Feng was doing his best to tell her as many things as possible. All right, said Meng Qing while slightly nodding. Lin Feng turned his head and looked in front of him. Coming from the left, 2 armored horses were rushing into the city before them. 2 cultivators of the 9th Ling Qi layer, whispered Ba Dao behind Lin Feng and Meng Qing. Lin Feng was stupefied. As expected, the rumors about Celestial River were true. At that moment, they were rushing through the yellow desert, then arrived on a road made of bluestone leading towards the city gate. But at the same time, 2 silhouettes descended from the air, landing under the Phoenix City gate, blocking their way. Lin Feng, Ba Dao and Meng Qing reined in their horses, which started trotting and eventually came to a stop. They looked at the 2 silhouettes who were in front of them. They were 2 men, who were about 30 years old. One of them looked ice-cold and dark while the other had an evil smile on his face. These people were definitely not here with good intentions. What do you want? Said Lin Feng, sounding cold. Every person who wishes to enter the city must pay a fee of 10 purity stones of medium quality, which means that you 3 have to pay 30 purity stones in total. 300 purity stones of lower quality would be fine as well, said the one who was smiling evilly. Lin Feng frowned. Celestial River is the city of freedom, you can enter and leave as you wish. Since when do you have to pay a tax? Besides, even if there was a tax, why would I give it to you? Said Lin Feng, sounding detached. Because I say so. So no need to speak nonsense, said the evil-looking person furiously when he heard Lin Feng. Lin Feng's facial expression turned ice-cold. A moment ago, 2 people had entered the city and these 2 didn't stop them. When they arrived, these people came down. They most probably thought that they were weak. As expected, Celestial River was a heaven for strong cultivators and hell for weak ones. What if I don't give you anything? Said Lin Feng, sounding indifferent. If you don't give me anything, said the man with the evil smile. Even though Celestial River was full of extremely strong cultivators, not all of them were strong. Lin Feng was very young and had high natural talent, but how strong could young cultivators be when compared to their elders? Young people like Lin Feng were the favorite targets of these 2 men. They were always stationed above the city gate and stealing purity stones. It was extremely easy to get purity stones because people who came to Celestial River often had all their money to purchase goods. If you don't give it, you will die, said the one with the evil smile on his face. He released some deadly qi. Sacrificing 3 lives for 30 purity stones of medium quality, are you sure that it is the right decision? Asked the one with the evil smile. His qi was getting denser and denser. No need, I'm sure, said Lin Feng while turning around and moving his horse forwards. These 2 men smiled coldly and said, do you think that you can just leave like that? But at the moment they finished talking, Ba Dao rushed over to them, releasing a terrifying qi. At that moment, Ba Dao's qi turned into blade energy, it was extremely sharp and ice-cold. At that moment, these 2 men's facial expressions changed drastically. His blade chi was extremely powerful, there was also blade force. Besides, that chi had the force was at the 7th chi layer, which was the same level as theirs. Die, said Ba Dao. In these two men's eyes, an expression of hopelessness appeared. A bright, resplendent and dazzling light cut through the air and removed their heads from their body. Ba Dao remained expressionless. Let's go, said Lin Feng, and the three people entered Celestial River. At that moment, in the distance, there were a few silhouettes, 2 boys and 1 girl. When they saw these 2 heads fly away, they took a deep breath. What a strong and powerful blade, said the girl in a low voice. These 3 people had arrived in Celestial River earlier, but because of these 2 people, they hadn't dared enter the city and were trying to hide in the distance. Ba Dao had immediately killed the 2 men. Who's the person who's wearing the mask? He should already be a master of blade force. I heard that the second core disciple of the Haoyu clan, the Blade Master, was also coming to Celestial River. Could that be him? Whispered the girl. The 2 boys on her side said, if he is the Blade Master, who are the 2 others? The young girl shook her head indicating that she didn't know either. Immediately after, these 3 people entered Celestial River. The big power closest to Celestial River was the Haoyu sect. The second was the Ice and Snow Mountain Village. Therefore, in Celestial River, there were always plenty of disciples of the Haoyu sect and of the Ice and Snow Mountain Village. The big power closest to Celestial River was the Haoyu sect. The second was the Ice and Snow Mountain Village. Therefore, in Celestial River, there were always plenty of disciples of the Haoyu sect and of the Ice and Snow Mountain Village. In Celestial River, they could find all the things they needed. They obviously enjoyed spending time there. A year before, the holy courtyard of Shueyu had been inaugurated, the Yunhai sect had been annihilated, and at the same time, the Haoyu sect and the Ice and Snow Mountain Village had to give up many of their outstanding disciples to send them to study at the holy courtyard of Shueyu. In a year, the biggest sects of the country had completely shaken. For example, now, the best core disciple of the Haoyu sect was Jiang Shan and the second was Leng Yu aka the Blade Master. Amongst the Ice and Snow Mountain Village, Bing Yuan was one of the best talents. All of them were illustrious disciples, they were rising stars. Amongst all of them, the Blade Master was particularly amazing. He was even more monstrous than Jiang Shan. Leng Yu's blade was piercingly cold, the cold pierced to the bones like needles. Leng Yu rarely needed a second blade strike in his battles, one was enough to kill his opponents. Very often, he didn't even need to take out his blade to kill his opponents. The Blade Master's blade had reached perfection. It was said that, when he had the power of the 3rd Ling Chi layer, he had understood how to control blade force, then when he had the strength of the 6th Ling Chi layer, he had learned how to use energy attacks, and these days, he was extremely strong and had broken through to the 8th Ling Chi layer. However, with his energy attacks, he was already able to defeat cultivators of the 9th Ling Chi layer. People who dared to fight against him were rare. Leng Yu's blade didn't appear randomly, if he took his blade out, it meant he was going to kill. Therefore, in a short time, within the last 6 months, he had gained the nickname, the Blade Master. Everybody knew the 8 high officials of Shueyu, many people thought that, in the future, the Blade Master could become one of them. On the central road of Celestial River, there was the Celestial Mountain Restaurant. Many people were having a break there and drinking some alcohol. At that moment, a silhouette stepped onto the wooden floor of the restaurant. When the people in the restaurant saw that silhouette, everybody went quiet. There is some blade energy. That blade energy is so cold. The crowd was stupefied. Everybody was staring at the person who had just entered the restaurant. That person looked like an ordinary young man. That young man didn't look like a noble cultivator. He didn't seem normal either. The only noticeable thing was that he was carrying a blade on his back. It was an ancient one, it was even partly rusted. People were trying to guess how old that blade really was. Everybody was staring at that common and ordinary young man and remained silent. It was because he was releasing an extremely strong and powerful blade chi which seemed like it could explode at any moment and kill people. When that young man looked at the crowd, they had the impression that his eyes were like blades. The young man came in and indifferently glanced at the crowd. Everybody could feel the sharpness of his blade. Everybody was avoiding looking into his eyes, they didn't dare. But at that moment, the young man stopped. His blade-like eyes started looking at someone. That person was wearing a bronze mask and was releasing an incredibly brutal blade chi. That person was like him, a blade cultivator. But that person's blade was a brutal blade, his was a sharp blade. The young man smiled as he found the situation amusing and then stopped looking at him, went away and chose a place to sit. Because of him, the atmosphere in the restaurant had become quite oppressive. "Ba Dao, how strong is he?" asked Lin Feng to Ba Dao in a low voice. They were sitting at a table on the second floor and were next to the banister. "Very strong, I cannot defeat him, my strength in blade chi is not as strong as his," replied Ba Dao and then continued, "he has broken through to the 8th Ling Chi layer." "Oh," said Lin Feng while nodding. He had, of course, noticed that young man was stronger than Ba Dao. Considering the blade energy that he released and in view of the fact that he had broken through to the 8th Ling Chi layer, he could probably already use her energy attacks and was at the point of condensing pure chi. Everybody could sense his strong blade energy. He wasn't releasing as much blade energy as he could though. He was actually very relaxed yet was releasing such a powerful blade energy, as if he couldn't control it. It was not under his control, because he had not mastered how to successfully condense his pure chi. Small amounts of the pure chi he was attempting to condense would be released along with each heartbeat. Coupled with the fact that he had the strength of the 8th Ling Chi layer, he could easily kill people of the 9th Ling Chi layer. Besides, people who were as strong as him, yet as young as him, were extremely rare. "But he is too arrogant. He cannot rival you," said Ba Dao, which made Lin Feng smile. "Shamelessly boasting," joked someone at the same time. That voice came from the table beside Lin Feng and his friends. At that table there was 4 people, 2 boys and 2 girls. The one who had said these words was a young girl. She was looking at Lin Feng and Ba Dao. She then said, sounding ice cold, "You're really shamelessly boasting. You really are ridiculous. Leng Yu is my fellow disciple, from the Haoyu sect. He's extremely strong and has amazing natural talent. His nickname is the Blade Master. In the future, he will be the same as Chu Zhanpeng, the high official of our sect. He will become one of the 8 high officials. Who do you think you are?" These 4 people were acting extremely arrogant, they really thought they were above everyone else. Besides, they were disciples of the Haoyu sect, which is why they were proud of the Blade Master and Chu Zhanpeng. "The Blade Master? What an arrogant name," replied Ba Dao. He immediately added, "But I've never heard of him before." The name was as sharp as a blade. Blade Master was indeed an arrogant nickname. Kacha, a cutting sound emerged in the atmosphere. The banister next to Lin Feng's table was broken. The place where it had been cut was neat and clean, as if it had been cut with an extremely sharp blade. Lin Feng turned around and looked at the first floor over the banister. He saw that Blade Master was sitting at his table and drinking some alcohol. At that moment, the Blade Master put his glass down onto his table and said while sounding indifferent, "Next time that you open your mouth, be a little bit more respectful." He sounded calm and didn't try to hide his arrogance. He definitely deserves his nickname, he's extremely powerful. I didn't even seen him take his blade out, thought some people. Some young girls were looking at him with sparkling eyes. If only they could marry such a young man, that would be wonderful. Ba Dao stood up, some brutal chi was emerging from his body. "Sit down," said Lin Feng sounding indifferent. Ba Dao was surprised. He immediately sat down again, yet still released some cold chi. "Drink some alcohol," said Lin Feng calmly. Ba Dao grabbed his glass, had a sip and then his glass broke between his fingers. Ba Dao was a slave but had been given to the arena because he was too disobedient. He had ended up with Lin Feng who had given him freedom, but Ba Dao was still aggressive and had a strong personality. "That guy is overestimating his own abilities," joked the Blade Master. Ba Dao was getting angry, but Lin Feng and Meng Qing were very calm. These words weren't affecting them at all, as if they hadn't even heard them. How you sect, the Blade Master, thought Lin Feng. He slightly smiled. It had been almost half a year since he had been out of the spotlight, yet it seemed like it had been 10 years, many things had changed. For a few months, Lin Feng had stayed in the government practicing his surplus soul technique, increasing his qi condensation method and studying his memories granted to him regarding pills and weapons. However, Lin Feng had the feeling that his abilities still weren't high enough. There were too many things which he wanted to improve. Lin Feng didn't want to owe anything to Xueyu, which was a tiny country. In the memories of the cultivator of the Zun Qi layer, there was one person that was almighty. By slightly waving his hand, he could make heaven and earth turn upside down. Reporting in from the translation cave to wish you all a Merry Christmas. When the boys and girls, sitting at the table next to that of Lin Feng and his friends, saw that they remained silent, they sneered at them and stopped looking at them. When the boys and girls, sitting at the table next to that of Lin Feng and his friends, saw that they remained silent, they sneered at them and stopped looking at them. Brother, do you know why Ling Yu came to Celestial River? Of course, he came to Celestial River because of a blade, replied a boy. Oh, smiled a young girl while looking at the others, and then said, Ling Yu's blade skills are already so high, are there still blades which can draw his attention? It probably must be an amazing blade. Moonbreaking blade, it's a spiritual weapon of highest quality, what do you say? Said a young boy of the Haoyu sect while smiling. Everybody was captivated and surprised. As expected, the Blade Master had come for the Moonbreaking blade. They had all heard that that blade was available in Celestial River at that time. Many people had come because of it. A spiritual weapon of highest quality, not many people can get it, right? Hee, if Ling Yu is here, who will dare try and get it? Unless they want to become Ling Yu's enemies as well as the enemy of the Haoyu sect. When the crowd heard these people talking, they all understood what they meant. They were boasting about Ling Yu so that nobody would dare to try and steal the blade. The crowd understood that they had to think carefully before trying. That girl of the Haoyu sect knew why Ling Yu had come, so it was obviously clear that she was saying these things on purpose. The people who were with her looked proud and arrogant as well. But in the crowd, nobody dared to contradict these people. The Haoyu sect had a certain influence in Celestial River. Besides, at that moment, the Blade Master was also present. A spiritual weapon of highest quality, thought Lin Feng. He, obviously knew the classification of spiritual weapons. There were ordinary weapons and spiritual weapons. Spiritual weapons could cut through iron as if it were mud. They also gave a cultivator a certain superiority during battles, and besides, they were also divided into 3 categories, low, medium and high quality. At the Yunhai sect, Lin Feng had obtained spiritual weapons in the temple near the precipice of Zhanggu. Most of them were low and medium quality spiritual weapons, but there were also a few high quality spiritual weapons. In Xueyu, spiritual weapons and pills, no matter what quality, were all very scarce. Seeing spiritual weapons of high quality was an extremely rare thing. There were also better weapons than spiritual weapons, mystical weapons. In Xueyu, there were very few of them. Cultivators of the Xian Qi layer rarely used mystical weapons. Lin Feng had never seen any in his life. Ba Dao, that moonbreaking blade, do you want it or not? Asked Lin Feng to Ba Dao in a low voice. Ba Dao was stupefied. The Dream Pavilion was one of the big marketplaces in Celestial River. It was a vast and broad place covering a huge area. Celestial River was a city which was millions of years old, and treasures were more numerous than in the Imperial City. There were new treasures being sold each day. There were some precious things which could only be acquired at the marketplace, at an auction market or through trade. At that moment, Lin Feng and his friends entered the pavilion. It was very noisy inside. In the pavilion, there were all sorts of people, handsome young men who had an elegant carriage, delicate and beautiful young women, shabbily dressed old men and filthy beggars. Some people were there to sell things, while some others were looking for various things. "Sir, a Xian skill of high quality, are you interested?" At that moment, a middle-aged man walked next to Lin Feng and talked in a low voice. Lin Feng was surprised. He then smiled, shook his head and said, "I don't need it, thank you." When that middle-aged man heard Lin Feng, he didn't insist and immediately left as if nothing had happened. "What's wrong?" said Lin Feng, perplexed while looking at a person near them. "Sir, it must be your first time in Celestial River." "Indeed," said Lin Feng while nodding. "No wonder," said that person as if they had suddenly understood. He continued, "Celestial River is the biggest marketplace in Shuiyu. Here, there are various methods of selling things. Goods that are on the ground are ordinary goods and inexpensive. Of course, there are exceptions as well. Some of the sellers are also extremely strong cultivators and are therefore not afraid of putting the items they sell on the ground. They don't mind who would dare come and steal their things. The second way to sell things is to find people with whom you can exchange things. For example, that person a moment ago needed purity stones, which is why he was looking for someone in need of skills, who would be willing to give him purity stones in exchange. There is also a third way to sell things, and it is at the auction sales. You can auction your things in the Dream Pavilion and sell them in their auction." "Why do people exchange things with other people and don't bring them to auction sales?" asked Lin Feng, confused. The fees of Dream Pavilion were quite low, and besides, they could sell things at a higher price. There are many reasons. One of them is that they only sell 10 items a day. If you want to give them things to sell, you need to give it to them 3 days in advance, and then they select the objects that they want to sell. If your thing is rejected, they give it back to you. Many people are unwilling to go through that troublesome procedure. Besides, ordinary things cannot be sold at the auction. Then, there are some people who are paranoid and don't want to show what they have to everybody else. It makes them worried. If they bring things to the auction marketplace, they feel unsafe. Therefore, they prefer going and finding someone on their own, which comes down to finding a needle in a haystack. When Lin Feng heard these words, he nodded as a sign that he had understood. Indeed, there were all sorts of possibilities. There were people who were realistic and felt good only if they had the object they were selling on themselves, near them. Many people were realists. "It seems like we'll have to stay at the Dream Pavilion for a few days," thought Lin Feng. That time, he had come prepared. He absolutely needed to get a few things. "Look, it's Bing Yuan, the top disciple of the Ice and Snow Mountain Village." At that moment, a surprised voice spread in the air. Many people were looking in one direction. They saw a group of people being led by an ice-cold and fierce-looking man, Bing Yuan, who had joined the Ice and Snow Mountain Village after the high official Luo Shui left for the Imperial City. Lin Feng looked in the same direction as the other people and saw Bing Yuan. "What a cold young man." Lin Feng looked in the same direction as the other people and saw Bing Yuan. "What a cold young man." In the Ice and Snow Mountain Village, only possessors of ice and snow spirits were accepted. All the skills they practiced were ice skills. When that group of people arrived, it seemed like the atmosphere had suddenly become much colder. "Ninth Ling Qi layer," said Ba Dao. Lin Feng faintly nodded. The fact that the Yunhai sect had been annihilated wasn't a random and groundless event. 1 year before, the Yunhai sect was, indeed, the weakest of all the largest sections. It was obvious when seeing the disciples of the other sections. Bing Yuan and his friends were walking forwards. At that moment, many people were moving aside, opening a path for them. Very quickly, Bing Yuan arrived in front of Lin Feng, but the crowd noticed that Lin Feng wasn't moving aside. He was standing in the same place he was before, motionless. Ha! Many people were stupefied. Who were these audacious people? They saw that Bing Yuan and his friends wanted to pass, but these people were making them go around them. Bing Yuan frowned and some ice-cold qi moved towards Lin Feng and the two others. The atmosphere around them was surrounded by a layer of white frost. Very quickly, Lin Feng's body was surrounded by a layer of ice. Lin Feng was still standing at his initial position, looking calm and serene. An invisible strength appeared. Lin Feng's clothes were fluttering in the air. In a flash, the ice around his body completely vanished without trace, as if there hadn't been anything at all. What's going on? The crowd was astonished. In the blink of an eye, the ice around Lin Feng's body had disappeared. It seems like that person is extremely strong. No wonder that he isn't moving even though Bing Yuan is trying to pass, thought many people at that moment. They were starting to pay attention to Lin Feng. He seemed quite mysterious. I'm Bing Yuan of the Ice and Snow Mountain Village. Who are you? Asked Bing Yuan to Lin Feng, sounding extremely cold. Frost was floating around his body. Lin Feng, said Lin Feng indifferently. Surprisingly, when Bing Yuan heard his name, his pupils shrank. Lin Feng. He had heard that name many times in his sect. The elders of the sect often talked about him. Half a year before, he had set a city on fire and was famous in the imperial city for all his actions. Strong cultivators who belonged to the largest sects obviously knew who he was. Lin Feng, I've never heard that name. I don't know which sect he belongs to, thought people in the crowd. They were puzzled. They didn't know which sect had an outstanding disciple called Lin Feng, but from Bing Yuan's facial expression, they had the impression that he knew Lin Feng. He was frowning. Then, Bing Yuan walked around Lin Feng. People who were with him angrily glared at Lin Feng. They were asking themselves why Bing Yuan hadn't killed him. He surprisingly dared to act so arrogantly before them. But Bing Yuan remained silent. His friends had no choice but to follow him and ignore Lin Feng. At that moment, a strong ice energy flew through the air towards Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng smiled coldly and slightly shook his hand. Ah! At that moment, a horrible shriek filled the atmosphere. It came from the disciple who had just attacked Lin Feng by surprise. The arm he had used for the attack was hanging from his shoulder by a layer of skin, and cultivation had just been crippled. All the disciples of the Ice and Snow Mountain Village turned around and looked at Lin Feng with ice-cold glares. Brother, what's going on? He attacked me by surprise, said the disciple whose face was deathly pale. He was fixedly staring at Lin Feng. Attacked by surprise? Lin Feng took a step forward and released swift and fierce qi. It invaded the entire atmosphere. That person started shaking and then groaned. He was terrified. He was staring at Lin Feng and blood started flowing from his mouth. You dared kill me, said that person with a trembling voice. Immediately after, his facial muscles relaxed and he collapsed onto the person who was behind him. He had just died, yet his eyes remained open with a shocked expression. Lin Feng had just killed him in front of the group of disciples. They would have never thought he would be so daring. The crowd was astonished, dumbstruck, and fixedly staring at Lin Feng. How audacious! He had killed that disciple in front of all his fellow disciples of the Ice and Snow Mountain Village, including Bing Yuan. As if I needed to attack you by surprise, said Lin Feng, sounding indifferent. That guy had just said that Lin Feng had attacked him by surprise. Lin Feng didn't feel like wasting words, so he immediately killed him. Lin Feng was much stronger than him and was not scared of the disciples. He had dared to kill him immediately while they all watched. Had Lin Feng needed to attack him by surprise? The other guy obviously just wanted to slander Lin Feng. People in the crowd were indiscernibly nodding. Indeed, with Lin Feng's strength and courage, it was impossible for him to have attacked that guy by surprise. The disciple was just lying. Lin Feng looked indifferently at the disciples of the Ice and Snow Mountain Village, and more precisely at Bing Yuan. What did they intend to do? Bing Yuan looked glum. Even though he knew that his fellow disciple had provoked Lin Feng first, Lin Feng had killed him in front of everybody else. That was a humiliation for Bing Yuan and for the Ice and the Snow Mountain Village as well. Lin Feng, it seems like you don't care about humiliating me, said Bing Yuan while releasing some cold energy. The crowd was stupefied. Did he want to fight? Why would I care about humiliating you? Replied Lin Feng, sounding cold. Since you know me, you also know my background. Now, why would I need to care about humiliating you or even your entire sect? Bing Yuan was surprised. Indeed, Lin Feng was a disciple of the Yunhai sect. The Ice and Snow Mountain village had also contributed to the destruction of the Yunhai sect. Its patriarch, Han Shui Tian, had even personally gone there to participate. Did Lin Feng need to give him face? It seems like Bing Yuan knows Lin Feng. It's just that we don't know him, we have to remember that name, thought the people in the crowd. Lin Feng surprisingly dared contradict Bing Yuan. It meant that he was probably extraordinarily strong, yet they had never heard his name. That was very strange. Bing Yuan, brother, kill him. Yes, brother, he killed our fellow disciple, kill him. Each and every single disciple of the Ice and Snow Village Mountain was furious. Lin Feng was too audacious. He had killed their fellow disciple and was still acting arrogantly. They were furious and wanted to kill him. Kill me. Are you not done talking shit? Said Lin Feng while glancing at the disciple. Lin Feng was provoking them to try and kill him. He was extremely aggressive. He was inviting these people to attack him and see the results. Their facial expressions were hideous. They didn't dare attack him though. Lin Feng had just slightly moved his hand and killed their fellow disciple. Besides, Bing Yuan seemed hesitant. That person was extremely strong. They could only try to convince Bing Yuan to attack, but Bing Yuan did not dare attack either. Lin Feng's power is unfathomable. He has broken through to the 7th Ling Qi layer already, and that was over half a year ago. He's probably much stronger now, thought Bing Yuan while staring at Lin Feng. He then thought, besides, I came to Celestial River for a reason and it has nothing to do with Lin Feng. The most important thing is for me to buy the thing I need. When Bing Yuan thought about the situation, he suddenly felt relieved. He had to stay in his peak condition because he had even more important things to do. In comparison with he had to do, the death of his comrade was meaningless. Let's go, said Bing Yuan as he started leaving. That move made everyone stupefied. Let's go. Bing Yuan surprisingly left. Was he scared to fight against Lin Feng? The disciples of the Ice and Snow Mountain village were even more surprised. Bing Yuan wasn't fighting? Their deceased fellow disciple wasn't going to be avenged? Let's go, said Bing Yuan extremely coldly, which made them shiver. Immediately after, they glared at Lin Feng again yet left. They didn't dare contradict Bing Yuan. In the mountain village, Bing Yuan was extremely powerful and aggressive. Those who dared oppose him were punished. That time, they didn't know why he wasn't avenging his fellow disciple. Was he afraid of Lin Feng? Lin Feng looked at them leave. He looked calm and serene. Immediately after, he continued walking around the dream pavilion. A moment later, he arrived in front of an old man's rug that was selling pill ingredients and squatted down. Old man, how much is that spiritual lichen? Asked Lin Feng to the old man. The old man raised his head, looked at Lin Feng and said, 1 purity stone of lower quality per stem. Help yourself. I would like 100,000 stems, said Lin Feng. The old man was astonished and was blankly staring at Lin Feng. 100,000 stems. Even though spiritual lichen wasn't extremely valuable, 100,000 was a huge number. Why do you need so much lichen? To concoct some spiritual sanguine pills. Spiritual sanguine pills? What other ingredients do you need? Lin Feng's pupils shrank. He knew that he had found the right person. I am making pure earth pills, spirit breath pills and red sun pills. When the old man heard Lin Feng, he remained silent for a second. Lights were flashing in his eyes. He then said, wonderful, then you need some scorching heat herb, sanguine plants and pure qi grains. Indeed. I need a lot of ingredients, said Lin Feng while nodding. While walking around, Lin Feng was observing the vendors and their strength. That old man's strength was unfathomable. Ba Dao hadn't been able to tell. Therefore, they had come to him. It seemed like he was an extremely powerful cultivator who, on top of that, could also concoct pills. The old man smiled and looked at Lin Feng. it seems like you came prepared, but did you already know that I had these things? The old man smiled and looked at Lin Feng. It seems like you came prepared, but did you already know that I had these things? Old man, I didn't know, but a cultivator of the Xian Qi layer selling pill ingredients here is always something easily noticeable, said Lin Feng with a warm smile. The old man smiled and shook his head. Don't call me old man, you can call me Mr. Hua. That girl behind you is just as enigmatic. Mr. Hua, said Lin Feng, getting more intimate with the old man. He then continued, Mr. Hua, I just told you what I needed and I need huge quantities. Do you know where I can find such large quantities? If small quantities are enough for you, I can help you, but if you need hundreds of thousands, I have no solution for you. The old man was shaking his head. Hundreds of thousands, that was a huge quantity. Who was able to pick that many plants? But you asked me where you could find them. There is a place, but you cannot go there. Cannot go there? Lin Feng was stupefied and asked, if I ask you to help me, will it still be difficult? The old man frowned and looked at Lin Feng. Hundreds of thousands is a colossal quantity. I'm not sure I can get that much. Besides, if you need hundreds of thousands of each of the herbs and plant, even though they are not valuable, it is still a tremendous amount. Do you know of spirit blood pills? Asked Lin Feng. Ha! The old man was stupefied. A strong qi emerged from his body. That abrupt rise of qi made Lin Feng feel an incredible heat as if he was going to burn alive. The old man probably was an expert at using fire. People who were experts at using fire had high proficiency in concocting pills and fabricating weapons. Of course, the soul also had to be extremely strong. What do you know about spirit blood pills? Asked the old man. I know about them. Spirit blood pills can alter the blood vessels and the soul, making a cultivator's blood vessels and soul become extremely strong. They are extremely beneficial for cultivators of the Xian Qi layer. It's a Xian level pill of medium quality, said Lin Feng slowly. The classification of pills was similar to that of weapons, which also depended on the different cultivation levels. After ordinary weapons, there were spiritual weapons and then mystical weapons. Besides, there were ordinary pills which were suitable for cultivators of Qi layer but who were of almost no use for cultivators of the Ling Qi layer. Only Ling level pills had effect on cultivators of the Ling Qi layer but were of almost no use to cultivators of the Xian Qi layer. Cultivators of the Xian Qi layer required spiritual weapons as well as Xian level pills. The spirit blood pill was a Xian level pill of average quality which was extremely beneficial to cultivators of the Xian Qi layer, even if they had broken through to the 6th Xian Qi layer. Weapons and pills were also classified according to their quality: high, average and low quality. Using Xian level pills of average quality on a cultivator who was under the 4th Xian Qi layer would have been a waste. Even though the pills were still beneficial to them, their bodies weren't able to entirely assimilate them. Then, if used on a cultivator above the 6th Ling Qi layer, these pills had almost no effect. Therefore, they were adequate for cultivators between the 4th and the 6th Qi layer. How could the old man not be surprised when he heard that Lin Feng wanted some Xian level pills of average quality? Can you concoct them? Asked Mr. Hua while staring at Lin Feng. At that moment, Mr. Hua didn't look sluggish anymore, he looked captivated. How could I concoct that kind of high-quality pills? Said Lin Feng while shaking, which made the old man frown. But Lin Feng continued, but accidentally, I obtained the recipe of the spirit blood pills. The recipe? The old man was surprised and started breathing faster. There were 3 difficult things about pills: being able to or finding someone to concoct the pills, finding the material to concoct the pills, and then obtaining the recipe. Besides, the recipe was the most important thing. Without it, it was impossible to concoct the pills. Of course, many people thought that the one who concocted the pills was the most important because it was very difficult to find good ones. But without the recipe, how could anyone concoct the pills? However, with the recipe, even without someone to concoct the pill, at least, the recipe was already extremely valuable. Indeed. The recipe, Mr. Hua. I just talked about a few pills. I need to make at least 20,000 of each. What materials do I need? Master Hu probably knows better than me. If you can help me, I will offer you the recipe of the spirit blood pill. Lin Feng had said 20,000, which represented a huge quantity. It was the first time that Mr. Hu heard a person say that they needed 20,000 pills. Then don't worry, I understand, said Mr. Hu while staring at Lin Feng. Mr. Hu, if you kill me, you will not obtain the recipe. Besides, you might not necessarily be able to kill me. I am convinced that Mr. Hu wouldn't try such a thing anyway, said Lin Feng while smiling. Mr. Hu remained silent, looking pensive. Alright, deal, but I need a few days. Alright, no problem. 3 days later, at dinner time, I will be at the Celestial Mountain restaurant waiting for you. How does that sound? Alright, see you in 3 days, said Mr. Hu while rolling up his sleeves. In a flash, the herbs on the ground vanished. He obviously had a Na stone. Mr. Hu turned around and immediately left the dream pavilion. It seemed like the old man could handle things for Lin Feng at the speed of light. When Lin Feng saw Mr. Hu leave, he smiled. Lin Feng's plan had worked without any incident. Concerning the recipe of the pill, it wasn't going to be a loss for Lin Feng. It was in the memories which the cultivator of the Zun Qi layer had given to him. He just had to write it down on a piece of paper and hand it over. Lin Feng wasn't going to lose anything in the transaction. Let's go. Lin Feng started walking again, going towards the depths of the dream pavilion. They weren't the only people in that case. At that moment, they were surrounded by a myriad of people who were walking in the same direction, including the vendors who were packing up their things. The auction sales will start in about half an hour. Do you know if the moonbreaking blade will be sold today or not? Lin Feng respectfully asked someone walking over to their group. That person had seen Lin Feng kill the disciple of the Ice and Snow Mountain Village, and then ignore Bing Yuan. They had also heard Lin Feng talk about Xian-level pills with Mr. Hua. That timid person couldn't believe his ears. Besides Lin Feng, who was also extremely strong, the man wearing a bronze mask, who was following him, was probably just a subordinate. Leave. Forget everything that you have seen and heard today, said Lin Feng, sounding cold and detached. That person then timidly nodded and said, understood. After that person left feeling aggrieved. Lin Feng ignored him and moved towards the entrance of the auction. Then, Lin Feng said to the two people at the entrance, I have things to sell at auction, with whom should I talk? Come with me, said one person. Lin Feng followed him and entered the auction room. After a short time, they arrived in a room where people were sorting various goods. When Lin Feng saw all these goods, he was stupefied. There was an incredible quantity of goods that people wanted to sell at auction. The person who received Lin Feng was a very sexy woman. Her skin was as white as snow, her shoulders were beautiful and well-formed, she had well-developed white breasts. She was extremely attractive. What do you want to sell, sir? A D-level skill of low quality called Swift Leaf, as well as 10 spiritual weapons of medium quality, said Lin Feng, sounding cold and detached. The sexy woman was stupefied. The smile on her face suddenly turned into a deep and profound facial expression. Sir, please come with me, said the woman while standing up. You can wait here for a moment, said Lin Feng to Meng Qing and Ba Dao. Immediately after, he entered in a secret room with the woman. In that room, things were in complete disorder. It definitely required some tidying. These goods were the ones which had been selected to be sold at auction. Sir, show me the things which you would like to sell at auction, said the woman who had arrived by an old man's side. All right. The Swift Leaf book appeared in Lin Feng's hand. At the same time, above the ground, a small light flashed and suddenly, 10 spiritual weapons appeared, and a resplendent light emerged. Lin Feng handed over the Swift Leaf skill to his interlocutor. The woman gave to the old man, who looked through it. Immediately after, the old man nodded and said, no problem. It's a medium-quality skill of the D level. There is no problem with the spiritual weapons either. Thank you, senior. The woman smiled and packed the skill and the weapons. She then sealed the box for safekeeping. She then wrote a few notes on the package and handed a small jade card over to Lin Feng. "Sir, your things will be sold tomorrow. After the auction, you only need to come back with jade card and we will know what items belong to you. The fortune won't be small and you will receive all your purity stones without a fee. Besides, using that card, you can enter the area reserved to our special clients," said that beautiful woman with an enchanting smile on her face. While talking, the way she was moving her body made her look even more seducing. No fees and sold tomorrow, thought Lin Feng. The normal procedure was supposed to last 3 days, but because Lin Feng's goods were extremely valuable, he had gained some privileges. Concerning the reward, Lin Feng thought that he had already had plenty of fortune. The memories of the strong cultivator were his most valuable possession. Lin Feng nodded and left the room. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.